Hello, everybody. My name is Barry, and welcome to the Gilded Flask, where adventure is never far. We have an interesting stream for you today because we're doing something entirely different. I'm joined by three wonderful people. Please introduce yourselves.
Hey, I'm Anne, and I did play Carla Lilac Hart, who was the Inquisitive College of Spirits Bard and Rogue. It's hard to say those things together.
I'm Daniel. I played John Varenthal, the Hexblade Paladin of Midnight, which that name was given to me by Marissa in the last episode, and it's perfect.
And I'm Marissa. I played Kasariel, the ASMR Twilight Cleric.
If you're joining us for the very first time, then hello and welcome to our very, very final episode of The Curse of Strahd. We won't be playing it today, but we're rather going to have a look over all of the episodes that we played. We're going to be answering all of your questions. We're going to be looking through all the things that we did do, some of the things that we didn't do, and you're welcome to ask any questions that you might have. If you're live with us on Twitch, you can do so through chat. You can use the redeemable option for that, or you can throw them in chat. We'll see them anyways, probably. If you're not live with us, then you can still watch all of the questions being answered, of course, through YouTube, and you can listen to us on the go through our podcasts. If you want to have a list of all of the places where you can find us, please have a look at thegildedflask.com. And even though we're not going to be playing The Curse of Strahd today, I kind of feel like doing the intro just one more time. So
I would
let's
also
get right
like
into it.
I would also like to point out that if you have any further questions that aren't answered in today's episode, please feel free to leave them in the comments, and we will be sure to answer them as soon as we can. So.
Absolutely. Let's see that intro one more time.
Tell me, do you like ghost stories? I've been investigating people vanishing mysteriously into the night, never to return. It looks like I've found out where they've been.
Good evening.
I don't like this place. The air feels heavier.
Did you hear that?
What do you mean he's watching?
In this place, nothing is what it seems.
We come from an ancient land.
There's no time for this. What are you looking for?
This place has taken my father and my mother. It will not have me.
We gotta move, now.
Oh, I do love a good mystery.
Barovia is mine, and so are you.
I'm going to miss that intro. Such a good intro. We watched that for 48 episodes, right? This is technically episode 49.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we're going to leave it on an odd number? That feels wrong.
We had 48 real episodes. This is just a retrospective.
I'll say the intro
yours.
itself. The intro itself is a separate video on YouTube. So if you bundle that together, it's 50 videos.
Okay. Sure.
Oh. If you count the
But I'm
two
gonna miss
shot
that
we
intro.
did, it's technically 52.
Oh God!
No!
Oh, great. So
52 is a good number. That's a year.
sure. So I do have to give a shout out to the intro one more time. This intro was made by our very own Marissa. I really love it. I'm gonna hate having to leave it behind, but Marissa, you did an amazing job at making that.
It'll live on.
Why, thank you. Thank you very
And
much.
now that we're no longer going to be playing Curse of Strahd, I can also say something about the next intro. I'm not going to share anything but one thing. It's going to be so good. Oh my God.
I've already
You guys gotta
threatened
see it.
him.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell
He tries
anything.
to share anything with
but-
you. You tell him no, and you pop him on the nose. No.
Yes, and you tell Marissa, so she'll pop me on the nose as well. Mhm.
Yes.
A nice
But
wrap.
we've been recording and audio and whatnot, and it's beautiful. But I'm gonna miss this one. So, what are we gonna do today? Well, we gotten a lot of questions from you guys. So first and foremost, thank you so much for all of the questions. The Discord was filled with a whole bunch, so we made a lovely list of them. We're going to be running through them one by one. If you have any additional questions, as I said in the intro, feel free to drop them into the chat or on YouTube. You can drop them in the comments. We will answer them as we go. We'll be looking at some of the maps. We'll be looking perhaps at a couple of things that you guys might have skipped. It's going to be pretty free form today, as you might also have noticed the way we dressed. Like, for this one time, we're taking a little bit more of a loose approach. So I think I want to start off with one question from my side before we get into the list. And that is looking at the entirety of the campaign. Was this everything you hoped it to be?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely not what I was expecting at all when we said Curse of Strahd, because in my head, when I think vampire, I think like Twilight. So in my head, I was thinking like sparkly, like that kind of thing. But to go into it and have it be like very like murder mystery, like kind of, especially the kind of twist at the end with the spoilers in this fucking episode, by the way. If you haven't watched it, go watch all. It's like, I think I calculated it's like 180 hours or maybe 140. I'm not too sure. You guys, that's like a week.
It's like 3 to 4 hours for every episode for 48. Oh,
yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah. So you just take a week out of your life and watch the Guild of Flask. But this twist at the end, especially with him being a lich and like the fact that it's kind of like a plane and that it's, the direction that it headed in, completely different to what I thought, but it definitely like hit that like gothic vampire vibe that I also was kind of craving when you mentioned like we would do this.
And when he pulled out
Glad.
Finger of Death and he nearly fingered 2 of us, that was insane.
I hate being in this cast.
How long have you waited to say that?
When you said lich, I was like, oh yeah, he's a wizard. Oh yeah, I remember that. Just a moment ago.
And you cannot leave. There are no doors or windows. I'm sorry.
Answering your question, I'm gonna say no. It wasn't what I was expecting it to be. It wasn't all I was like thinking it would be. We had some rough and tumble stuff at the beginning where we had like some technical difficulties. We also had trying to find our footing with the audio quality, and that's always a constant challenge just to make sure that everything stays the same. But I think from a production capability, we have grown so much from the start, both on and off camera. I think that we as a group have become a lot more cohesive than we were, and we all went into it very bright-eyed and sparkle visioned and hopeful. And I think we had a couple of pitfalls, but we also were able to smooth out a lot of the rough edges. And I think that this has become a lot more of a hopeful but realistic effort, and I think that I'm really happy to be where we are.
Yeah, it was what I was expecting, but more, because I think like one of the qualities of a rare DM is that they can take your crazy ideas and make it work into a story that's already a great story. And I think Papa really did that well. And I don't know how long or how much time that takes, but I appreciate you doing it, sir. So thank you.
You're very welcome. And honestly, I will have to say, once you've this really depends from DM to DM, but because I know people that prep everything. I know people that like 5 minutes pre-session are like, oh yeah, scribble, done, right? And anything in between. And I have to say, I'm a pretty meticulous DM. I want to have a lot prepped, but once you have your bases set, the rest is just adapting. So there were times where it was a lot. As you can imagine, for example, the transition to Ravenloft and you guys getting through the castle, that's a big chunk. But there were episodes where you guys were just on the move doing your thing. I had little to no prep because these things were already done. Based on the fact, of course, that pre-playing, I already did a lot of prep to get everything set up. But thank you for that. There is, as a DM, you are the storyteller at the front, but you're also the story prepper in the back. And there's a lot of work in there that you guys know but don't see. And as much as I know that you guys appreciate it, it's nice to hear. So thank you. All right. Shall we have a look at the list of questions? Because it's a lot, and I do want to get through all of them.
Yeah, I think we've got two major things that we want to do today. One is, and correct me if I'm wrong, there might be another. One is we want to answer some questions, and it, like you said, if there are any more questions that come in, you can use your channel points to redeem, and just like, it's very cheap, like almost no points. It's just a matter of having a list for us to see. You can do some live now, and we also have a lot prepped from Discord. And then the other big thing we want to know is there's a lot of homebrew that went into this campaign, and Papa has a whole host of things to show about what went on behind the scenes, and I'm so excited to see that. There's a lot that we don't know either. So,
yeah, the magic about Curse of Strahd is it is a story that's been around for so long, because the basis of Curse of Strahd comes from Ravenloft, which is the original story. And if I'm not mistaken, it comes from D&D 2 even. So D&D Next. The D&D, what was the name? D&D 2 basically, but it had a different name. That was where the first one started. And I have to say that from there, the story has been building up and has become a lot better. But still, in its core, it's a cool story, and there's a lot in there. But there are bits and parts that are lacking a little bit. And because it's been around for so long, the great thing is that there's a lot of people out there that have made really cool stuff for it already. And I've just been in a wonderful position to being able to just like pick from different parts and bring it all together from people that have been making homebrew that has been tried and tested for Curse of Strahd over the last, 10, 20 years. So you know it will fit. And that really helped in creating this puzzle. I'm just going to turn on another light because I'm noticing I'm a little dark. That's a little better. There we go. All right. Let's start at the top of the list, which is a question by Cholbab. And she asks, and I think this is towards the three of you. What was y'all's inspiration for your Curse of Strahd character? Feel free.
I'll defer to others if you want.
I was going to say, do you want to pick an order just so that we're not sitting in dead silence, that we answer things in?
Yeah, let's
start, because hers is
let's just
very pronounced.
Looking at the screen, let's just go with the clock. So that's John, Casario, Carla. It's just easy. Yep.
Sounds good.
All right. There are two things that went into making John. I really wanted to have a so actually three. One is I had not too long before, maybe about a year or so before, watched the Dungeon Dudes had a Witch Knight, which is the Hexblade Paladin character, a build for that, and I didn't follow that exactly. There were quite a few things I actually altered for my play, but I really liked having everything based off of charisma. Like all my attack, all of my interaction with people, pretty much everything that John did was charisma based, and it made it so much easier to focus on feats or on other things that involve, making him a more unique character rather than just focusing on his intelligence, strength, dexterity, and so on. So that was one reason. Another reason is I really wanted to have a character. We've I think one of the biggest things that we've struggled with as a group of three people is that we're not super ready to just jump into a dangerous situation, because we have to think a little bit more tactically. But you still need someone who is a bit more foolhardy and will, if you get paralysis by analysis, sometimes someone has to do something stupid and take the consequences of that stupid thing, but it just makes things happen. So I wanted somebody who was a little bit foolhardy and would charge into battle, and then someone who could say some stupid things that basically someone who was the exact opposite of my previous character, who was a lot more intelligent and scared. This guy is a little bit more confident and unbright, dim. So that's where John came from.
Awesome. Casario, what about you?
I actually was in a Curse of Strahd campaign, and we got to like level 5 or something, and then the group disbanded. So when we decided to do Curse of Strahd, I wanted to give myself a reason in character for my character to know certain things about the beginning of the story. So I made Casariel my previous character's daughter. So the previous character that I play is Celisaria, who is Casariel's mom, who Celisaria was featured all throughout the whole campaign. So I gave myself a journal, and that's where the journal came from. It was like actually my notes from my previous campaign. Some of them I like pulled out. So yeah, that's how I came up with my character.
Carla?
Well, for me, I have a roommate who has been playing D&D for a very, very long time. So whenever I kind of encounter anything new, I'm just like, hey, what do you think about this? What are some tips you have? And I was like, I'm really struggling figuring out what I want to do for this campaign, because I knew I wanted to play a bit more of a smarter character, because unlike Daniel, I had like a similar thing of like I wanted to play something opposite from the last character I'd played, where she was a bit stupid, a bit more like not really know what's going on, but she's here. She's very sheltered as well, so I wanted to play someone who could interact with the world a lot, because it was really confining being a character like that and being so excited to like look at every single bit of the map. So I wanted to give myself room to do that. So I was like, I want to play like something that will be interested in that, and I want to play it something that matches the world. And I'm thinking about a bard, because they're kind of like a jack of all trades, and I like kind of doing everything. And my roommate was just like, oh my god, there's like a whole bard class for Strahd called College of Spirits. And I was like, incredible, what's their whole thing? He's like, oh, you can be like a seance, like a tarot reading, but it's like you basically channel like tales of ghosts. And I'd been watching BuzzFeed Unsolved recently, so I was like, oh, I'm a paranormal investigator. Okay, that's perfect. That works. And that's sort of where the idea came from. It's like I can poke at everything because I have those investigative skills, but it's still within the Strahd world. And then general character design just came about from multiple media inspirations. Like the hat obviously is Sherlock Holmes because detective, and the actual face of the character, whenever I picture her as like, if any of you watch Bridgerton, there's like the Edwina Sharma, the younger Sharma sister. That's what she looks like in my head, because she's just like so joyous and bubbly, but she's really like book smart. So yeah, that's me.
I have 1 2 cents to put in here at the beginning. Is like at the beginning of this campaign, I really love the fact that all 3 of our characters had a different tie to this overall story in the world. John was going to have, because we already had planned the sort of like takeover puppeting kind of thing at the beginning. Puppet thing was later, but the whole idea where he has this internal struggle. Casariel, her struggle was familial, and she had a very emotional family tie to this story, and I thought that was a really cool aspect. And then Carla was essentially, she was the tie to the world at large. She was the one who could interact with all of the things going on. So everybody had a different level of interaction. I loved that.
Yeah, and for me as a DM, what I really loved about this party, when we set out, we knew, like, you know, Curse of Strahd is made for, well, they say at minimum a party of 4, and usually anywhere between 4 to 6. That is like the bandwidth that the majority of parties that play Curse of Strahd play in. So we looked at each other and we're like, okay, so you were 3, and the reason we do that is, well, one, we're just a group of friends. But also this gives a little bit more limelight to the characters so they can develop themselves a little bit more. That is, to us, a lot more fun, like the roleplay aspect of it. But it does come with some obvious disadvantages. So you have to take into account that, you know, you have to have a party that works, quote unquote. Because if you're just going to be 3 wizards, it's going to be really difficult when you run into something that is really good against, say, wizards. Usually in a session 0, this is something you take care of, right? You bring the characters together, you see if they work together, and then you adjust as needed. With this group, this is what they brought to the table, and we sat together, did the session 0. We talked about the world and what they were getting into, and then we looked at the characters, and that was, from what I remember, a 15-minute discussion, like barring the background stories that I've had with you individually. But the whole does it fit together was a very short discussion, because it did, and that's when you know a party is going to work great. It started off really good, and I really enjoyed that. So you brought something amazing to the table. Let's see for the next question. That is from Alulu, and they asked, what was your most heart-wrenching moment in Curse of Strahd? Let's start on the top of the round. John.
John's brother, when we came back for the second time and ran into James, and he just sort of didn't really have his reaction was that of essentially a dementia patient. He was staring off into the distance. He was answering as if he was just not really aware of the people in the room. That to me hit really hard, just because I've had two individuals, family members, go through Alzheimer's, and it just, like, to lose yourself, to lose your memories, to lose your critical thinking, I think is akin to death, because are you still you if you don't have your experiences, everything that makes you who you are? And that to me was one of the saddest things about this campaign.
All right. Kasaria?
For me, it was Kasariel's mom and the circumstances in which they were reunited after she'd been searching for her for so long. And then the outcome of that meeting, again, it's very sad.
Yeah, it was. If I can weigh into that, it was very hard for me to, because I knew from a pretty early point that was what I was going to do with your mom. And the thing is, Curse of Strahd is a pretty unforgiving campaign. Not in that it is deadly or anything, because it can be. But the Curse of Strahd is one of those campaigns where things go wrong, where people die, where things are just shit in moments. That is part of the story. It has to be like that every once in a while. So with that in mind, I knew what I was going to do with your mom. But having to string you along for that long, because it was pretty late in the campaign, it was past the halfway mark that we finally found the conclusion with your mom. It was very difficult to have to do that to you. So I guess I'm sorry. But yeah, no, I agree with you. It was heart-wrenching.
I hate that you're making me do this to you.
Yeah. All right, Carla.
Carla didn't have a lot of very personal, heart-wrenching moments. So like I always felt like my answers would have been, again, both of yours, because they were like the most emotional parts because they're so connected to the characters. But I think maybe like overall, like how Papa played the arena storyline for, you know, giving it the moments that he did. I remember every time we would like end a session with something like that happening, I would just leave it being like, oh. So, you know, I think the best moments were definitely like the brother and Xariel's like mom and even her dad as well. But you know, as a player, the things that I always like walked away just being like was always whenever he was like, oh, you know, here's a little update on Arena, or when she actually got taken the first time, that was instantly hooked me into the story because I was so like, we worked so hard to get her hair. It was really, really heartbreaking. So yeah.
All right. As for me, all of these very valid because I you know, you live along with you guys' stories. For me, I think it was very clear last episode that moment, that sort of apotheosis of like it's finally over, and you guys just running with it, and basically the final meeting, the three of you were like, well, you know, kind of like this is it, and you know, and that sort of like realization drops, like, yeah, damn it, this is it. And like that hit me like a brick. I didn't expect that. Like, of course, it's emotional to end a campaign that's been running for so long, but damn, I broke down, and I didn't expect that. It really did something with me, which, you know, just shows great role play on you guys' part. It was believable. It was real. You know, so yeah, it was beautiful. All right, next one. Also from Chol. You have been active. What was your favorite moment in the campaign, or the funniest? Good contrast. John.
I think it would be easy for me to go to just some of the interactions that I was really trying to make funny, like the be careful, old man. There's a statue that was fun. I think my favorite one though was when Kasariel threw a snowball at the back of John's head. And it had been a really, coming out of the Amber Temple was a dark time because there were people who, you know, people died. We weren't able to save anyone except for ourselves. We had, you know, Carla went through some serious ordeals, with the curse and everything. And I think all in all, the fact that Marissa was able to bring some levity to that moment and kind of bring us back to being a group again, a group of friends. That was a really impressive. Like I loved it. It was amazing.
Awesome. Casaria?
Thank you. I will take credit for that. However, I do believe it's more Casariel's inability to deal with trauma and dealing with it with violence and making fun of John or picking on John. I think that was more it, but I will accept that compliment as well. For me, one of the funniest parts of their campaign, there's a lot of them, but I think the brothel stuff with John was hilarious. Because we carried that for like a good 10 sessions. Like we got like a good 10 sessions of kikis out of that. But Stoker was great. And then obviously my favorite character in the entire campaign, Norman.
Norman the Mimic.
You know.
Yes, I knew it. That was so great.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember where Norman was. I feel bad about this. Where was Norman?
Norman?
Oh, Norman the Mimic. Yeah. Right. Someone's gonna mention Pumpkin here.
Obviously, yes. Yeah, that was wonderful. Carla, you.
I think the funniest for me was just killing the dog. We spent so long trying to keep it alive in the death house, and just it got in the way, and then it immediately following us for the rest of the campaign. So funny. It was so good. In terms of like favorite moment, it's a really small one, but like I think about it a lot. There's a scene where like whatever way Papa described it, it was so like vivid in my mind of like Sergei making Carla look up at like the souls, and just the way he described that, I was like, I'm here, I'm in it. So that was like my favorite moment, but the funniest was just fucking everything to do with Stoker, just killing him coming back in 2 different versions. Like it was great.
I think Carla's trying to rewrite history here. I don't think Stoker got in the way. I think he was an attempted murder.
Well, I mean, if the sacrifice had worked with him, then I would have gotten the glory, but now it's an accident.
Wait, I'm sorry. Was that supposed to be favorite moment?
As well?
Our favorite. I've written this down because I did not want to forget this. Okay, I have one for each of you guys. My favorite moment for John was with your brother and your like emotional connection with that character and how it shone through. That was beautiful. My favorite moment of Carla's, although there were many, as there were for all of you, because Carla is obviously incredible. I think it was that first moment you pulled out the Ouija board and we got to see it on screen, and it was like this whole moment, fucking rad. And then for Papa playing Strahd, we were sitting around this dinner table and we narked on the hag, and then Strahd just lops her head off. I was so not expecting that. It completely changed the game for me. I was like, oh shit, okay. So sorry, I wrote that down because I wanted to make sure I told each of you guys that.
I love it.
Oh, good. I think funniest moments for me, you've mentioned all of them. The ones that I had in my mind were indeed the brothel. The fact that John is so iffy with that, and like it was perfect. Norman was just like we've been laughing all the way till like way after we finished the campaign. That was just such a stretch of laughing.
So funny.
The snowballs was great. Stoker was great. There were so many great moments. You mentioned all of them. There's a lot of like little bits, but those are the ones that really like stuck in my mind. Absolutely.
Could I do an honorable mention of
Absolutely
when we were in the Tome of Strahd and we're all dancing with him, and we all just made it our mission to fuck with this man as much as possible, like wine
spilling
on his shirt, spilling his wine, stealing his woman, trying to trip him up. Like, I don't think any other party has been that antagonistic towards Strahd so directly, because we got that with the interactive book, and it just added so much. Like, it added so much to the campaign. It was so good.
DJ,
love it, and agreed. That was really funny. Alrighty, next one is again from Alu. What wacky behind the campaign moments did you have? So I imagine like outside of recording. I'm gonna see it as that. Does anyone have anything like that?
I think all of the conversations we had with how much the whole Escher storyline changed behind the scenes from start to finish. So I don't think it like changed dramatically from a character standpoint, but mechanically how it became this whole thing with strings and everything became string thing. I liked the whole aspect of the puppeteer, and it just sort of happened. We didn't really plan for that aspect of it, but we've had some interesting conversations behind the scenes about how we want certain things to happen or to shoot for.
Yeah, because I think when I'm thinking like wacky behind the scenes things, as much as we're having fun as friends, because we really we enjoy doing this, right? Like this is not just a face that we put on for streaming. We genuinely enjoy D&D. We genuinely enjoy each other's company, and we're not any different when we're recording than when we're not, other than the fact that we're of course playing characters. That being said, when we are prepping for Dungeons and Dragons, we are relatively serious. There's a lot of things to cover. There's a lot of things to go through. We do our own social media. We do our own design. For Curse of Strahd, we did use a lot of maps from DM Andy, which, again, DM Andy, if you're out there, thank you so much once again for your amazing art. But we have to bring it together, see if it works. All of that requires serious prep. So behind the scenes, we are just usually working. And we're having fun with it, but we're just pretty serious. So I don't really have anything that I'm like, oh, that was really funny.
Seriously wacky.
Oh.
No, wackily serious. I will say
Immediately
we
no.
had a whole campaign for this that was basically off camera. It was so good. It was really fun.
Yeah, that is
very
absolutely
silly.
true.
Yeah. So that's something I don't think we have it, but it's not great quality for all.
That is true.
This one is that it was such lightning in a bottle, but the production quality was not great yet. So maybe we'll redo it one day.
Yeah,
we'll definitely revisit
recorded-
those characters one day for something.
I think from episode 6 and on we recorded, but like you said, the quality was just
Yeah.
I
mean, we do have it on
computer
YouTube, but not
handle it.
put live, right?
I think so. And if we don't, I still have it recorded. So
It's linked. It's it's not private, but it's only listed by link. Yeah, it is. Maybe that's something for a Patreon exclusive thing that we can do. We can show people here's what we looked like when we were literally on potatoes, trying our best.
only
Yeah,
people
because
who
it's
are
that
willing
level.
to only people who are willing to pay money would actually like this, I think.
Yeah.
You literally-
Backgrounds aren't synced. The graphic quality. We didn't use nowadays we use Foundry, which is a wonderful piece of software to show the maps and whatnot. We were using Owlbear, which is a free platform, which is wonderful if you're just getting into D&D and don't want to spend any money. Owlbear is wonderful, but it looks a little different. So all in all, production quality.
Plus we weren't planning on filming it. That was just our practice. So
Correct.
we didn't put a lot of pre-production into it. We just 6 episodes in, we're like, this is really good. Maybe we should just record it. And I don't know. So we did.
Yes, you're also missing the first 5 episodes. Absolutely true.
Right. Yeah.
And we also
They were great.
We didn't really have a Carla either. We had because Carla was a unique case where she was charisma and intelligence. She had the ability to investigate. We had a sorcerer who thought he was a cleric, a paladin who named her horse, and a rogue who didn't understand why the people she was following allowed her to hold the gold. So
Easiest rogue ever to play. These two did not care anything about money.
here.
They were dumb as a box of rocks. Neither one of them had any idea that she was stealing from them, lying to them. It was incredible.
It was really
easiest
cute.
ever. I didn't
Yeah.
ever have to roll for deception.
All right, so
No, we just basically rolled with it. Yeah, sure, you got it.
Rissa had this wonderful bit during the campaign that is wacky, where if she couldn't figure out something, but Daniel's character could, she'd be like, explain that to me so I know you know it.
And he's like,
Oh,
oh
yeah.
I think
entire
I think this is how it
So
goes. Is that correct? And then by the end, Tolri, my character, was like, thank you so much for mentoring me for the entire time I've known you. You've shown me so much.
You didn't do shit.
It was great.
All right, let's see. Next
One thing I
from
think,
Jake.
I don't know
yes.
if you guys know this, you might know this, but we actually met up. So we're from different places. So we did meet up in person So that's kind of fun. Wackiness ensued, I'm sure.
That is absolutely true. That is definitely not recorded or anything. We have some photos and whatnot of it, because we figured like let's make some stuff that we might be able to use in social media, which we then like true content creators never used.
That's not true. It's going to be used for merch.
It will be used for merch, absolutely, because we are definitely considering going that route, and for that it would definitely fit.
That's gonna look so cool. I need that T-shirt. I need the T-shirt of Marissa or Carla, or sorry, Kazariel and John back to back with their magic and moonlight above, chaos below.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
All right. Next one that we have is from Jesu, who asks, "I loved your choice of background music. Thank you. Can you share some titles and or playlist example for Argynvostholt or Castle Ravenloft?" Well, yes and no, because as you're looking for music when you're prepping a D&D campaign, there's a couple of things you need to take into consideration. First and foremost, we are recording this, we are streaming this on Twitch, we're putting it on YouTube. There's just a lot of legislation out there that says you can't use copyright material, which is fair, right? That's made by someone else. So rule number one is you got to look for something that you can either use with their permission or that is copyright free. So that is basically the first thing that I'm looking for. Now, if that is the route you have to go down for your tabletop story, I can recommend a couple of places. First off, YouTube has this wonderful option where if you start a search, you can filter by any music that falls under the Creative Commons license. Now, do mind, that doesn't necessarily mean it's copyright free, but it'll give you like an estimate that it probably is. That'll filter down a lot of the music, so you know that what you're getting is safe. That's what I used a whole bunch, and you just throw in D&D terms in that, or anything that might fit your campaign. There's places in the campaign where I was like, okay, I need music that fits a farm. So just search for music, space, farm, Creative Commons, and see whatever YouTube comes up with. That can take a weekend, so I spend a lot of time finding music through that, but it is a way. Secondly, one that I can highly recommend that we every once in a while also link in our description below in YouTube is tabletopaudio.com. It is a platform that makes music specifically for tabletop gaming. All the music is copyright free. You can use it in whatever you are creating. So, for example, the Argynvostholt one comes from there, from what I remember. Thirdly, I have a couple of music scores that I got from another wonderful D&D creator who is called Pyram King. Pyram King works together with DM Andy. Andy makes maps for Curse of Strahd, as you have noticed in our campaign. Pyram King makes a lot of prep work for those maps, so he puts down little notes for a DM to read while you're getting your players through it. He also gets some music for the maps, and while some of it is unfortunately copyrighted, so I couldn't use it, a couple of the scores that were in there were actually copyright free and wonderful to use. The whole score for Castle Ravenloft is an hour-long piece of music that didn't have any copyright on it, and it was so perfectly fitting. So Pyram King is out there if you go and look for him. He's got a Patreon. He's not on Patreon anymore. He's on Ko-Fi nowadays. So up to there, you should probably be able to find his music. Those are the locations that I got my music from. And trust me, my library of D&D music is extensive at this point. So go ahead and spend a weekend on finding music, and I'm sure you'll find something. Next one is from Skoon's Tavern, and his question is, what was going through your... Oh, this is a good one. What was going through your mind when you found out what the pies were actually made of?
I gotta remember when we found that out, when we actually found, because it took us a long time to realize that.
Ooh.
We were so proud of being able to sell pies.
I know.
When you say we, I feel as though if we're going to talk about the incorporation of our pie business, Kasariel might need to be left out of this. Fair saying. Yeah, it's fair.
You know, Carla definitely had a CEO mind, but she's like, oh fuck, we can't market this. No, it was
it's the pie business. Nobody's gonna eat kid pies. Damn it!
Some people were.
That's terrible. We're supposed to say we pick puppies as well.
I see in chat someone asking, like, can you explain? Because I don't think I was around for this. So allow me a very short moment to explain what this was about, and then
I think that's a spoiler that they should definitely. Well, okay, yeah, we're about to read it out anyway.
We're about to spoil
This whole-
everything. It's
This
fine.
whole episode is spoiler heavy, so
true.
like, if you don't want any spoilers for Curse of Strahd, don't watch this episode.
Skip 5 minutes ahead, and then you won't.
Yeah. So in short, very much at the start of the campaign, when they enter Barovia and they are finding a place of refuge beyond the Death House, which is the first thing the players run into, they come to this village of Barovia. That's what the province is basically named after. There's a bar over there, which is the Blood of Divine Tavern. As they get there, there is a very sweet old lady that approaches with a little cart with some pies on there. And she's this really sweet old, like, you know, the grandmother of Tweety, like that kind of, like, really sweet old lady. And she's like, oh dear, like, you look like you just come out of the rain. Oh, terrible. And, like, it's my job to really sell her. And the second that sort of starts to work, I offer them a free pie. Because she has a couple and she feels bad for all the players. Most of the time they take a pie, as they did. They sample it, and it tastes really good. She's got a selection of vegetable and chicken pies. And she says, well, next time you come by the old windmill, let me know, and like I can get some more pies for you, etc. Some time passes, and at some point they will arrive at the windmill. And over there, really depending on how the players interact with it, you can try and get them some more pies or whatever. As luck would have it, the players decided to actually incorporate themselves with this lady at the windmill and her daughters, basically starting a distribution network for these pies. Now, in any circumstance, this wouldn't be a problem, but what you need to know about the pies is two things. One, they are magical in nature. If you eat a pie, it actually prevents you from having any form of nightmare. You will have a blissful dream. You will feel wonderful. So it's very addictive. And you want to eat it. And once you've eaten it and you don't eat another one within a 24-hour range, people will start to feel a little queasy, if you will. It's basically a role I do in the background. It is basically your kicking off of whatever this pie is made of, right? So it'll have some nasty side effects that you will have to get through before you basically are off the drugs, off the pies. So what are these pies made of? Well, there's no two ways about it. These pies were made with children.
The bones of children. So even
Yes,
the vegetable pie, even the vegetable pie is not vegetarian.
No, the dough itself was made in part with bone dust ground down from children's bones in the very windmill that they went to. And they didn't learn that until way after, when they've already eaten a lot of pies. They sold them to people in Vallaki, people on the road. They given them away to poor people. They have been an active part in distributing this.
Use them as bribes.
I had
Use them as bribes, yes.
in the
They
brothel.
were hot commodities.
In the brothel, John was told that he could have a shower, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, for 2 gold. And he was like, I don't know, give 1 gold for a shower. That's pretty expensive. Do you accept pies? And he gave the people at the brothel 2 pies to have a free shower.
See, and the thing is, a lot of people in Barovia didn't know there were children in there, but everyone knew the sort of addictive properties of pies because everyone had rampaging nightmares because, it's Barovia. Everyone wants to have their hands on these pies. That's why they're so popular.
And it was like set up because one of the things that we did when we were in the Death House was obviously poking at every corner. And the Death House was owned by the Dursts, and so was the windmill. It was known as the Old Durst Windmill. And it wasn't until because it's called the Bone Grinder, I believe, in game, but like Papa
yes.
had very explicitly only called it the Durst Windmill, to kind of not tip us off. So by the time we get there, we have the deed to the Durst Windmill, and all the Dursts are dead. So when I'm thinking like, oh, we're dropped in a new world, we can't get out, we can't communicate, we need money, I have this deed for a place that they're technically squatting in. Give them the deed, we go into business, we get some money, you know. So it was
It was way too
perfectly
easy, first of all. To trade the deed for like the pies and stuff.
I could
It
not
was
have
just way too
expected that.
easy in retrospect. At the
It
time,
was so
it was
early
great.
in the campaign that we were still, well, I would, like, Carla was still very, like, trusting and bright-eyed. You know, Sarah was always just fucking suspicious of everything, but I feel like
Yeah.
John and Carla were definitely like, yippity-doo, we can get through this and some mystery.
And John was like, I mean, these pies are damn good. I mean, they won't mind if we take a few.
It was really wonderful. So I do try to recollect what was the moment that, like, 'cause I know you first learned of the magical properties of the pie, because once you don't eat them, you notice that, because like at first I'm noticing that you don't feel well, and you guys thought, well, this might be because we're in Barovia. Like Barovia just doesn't.
I totally thought it was just a normal thing.
Yeah, but at some point I started like hinting at the fact that you really, really, really want to eat another pie. So at some point you're like, oh, hang on. So you found out that the pies were addictive at first. Along the way as you moved on. But what was the moment that you learned that there were children in there? I can't remember.
We saw a kid going to the windmill, and I think
one of the old ladies was basically forcing a kid upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as you do. No, you don't. That's super suspicious, even for anyone. Not just Kasariel.
And she's like, oh,
super sus.
Some of these children get lost in the road, and I don't know why she's Irish for some reason, but some of these children get lost on the road, and we take them in, and we take them upstairs.
I face crimes on this channel every day.
And that's where you guys went upstairs. I believe it was Carla, right? You went invisible and like went upstairs. And you were like, okay, let's have a look at the Amethyst grindstone, and then it was like, oh, like there's like a bit of like grind still left in there, and then you notice like this is bone dust. Holy shit.
They've got like ages if we go further up where the kids live. Yeah, it was bad. Where it was just like, oh shit. Because thinking like I'm selling like maybe poisoned pies to people, I can live with that. But like they're literally killing kids for them.
I can live with
that's where we draw the line.
Food.
I'm okay
just so
with
you know, guys,
like
gilded flask,
cocaine.
Poison, fine. Eating children, bad.
For the
hard line.
Yeah.
Hard line.
Selling.
You know.
Dead. Okay, yeah.
Profiting off children's deaths.
That's the one. I think that was also the second time we visited. So the third time we visited, because the first time we visited, we started the business. Second time we visited, we got our asses kicked. Third time we visited, two prominent moments actually. Second time we visited and got our asses kicked was the first time that Escher ever made himself known to the party. And then the second time was the moment where we were about to strike down the final witch, and she said, please, please, I surrender. And John's a paladin. He should, she's no longer a threat. He should stop. And he looked over, saw the bones. He looked over at the thing, saw the grind. He was like, you cannot live, and struck the final blow. So that was actually going to be a start towards John's descent into potentially something a lot darker, but we never really got there. So
we did heavily discuss that. Like I remember John was potentially going to become a fallen paladin.
An Oathbreaker.
Oathbreakers are cool.
I lost memories there as well. The pie place was whack.
Yeah.
It was whack.
Because
I think the only person who got unscathed was Kazan.
Yeah, because the first time you guys got beaten by the witches that were living there, you got locked up, and the only way to bargain for your freedom was to basically sell off a bit of yourself, which was very much a part of you. And for Carla, for you, it was a part of your memory, right? Like you just lost a part of what made you. Which is very, honestly, like, from a roleplay perspective, very painful. Being like, oh, you're just like a little less yourself right now. I was so glad that you guys got to get it back.
Yeah, I think the thing that we did was like in game mechanic, it was that she would have disadvantage on charisma based rolls from there, because that's what it was. It was like the memories of her picking up like social cues and interactions and how she can use those to kind of get information from people. And it didn't come up often, which is fine, because we didn't actually have like a long stint of talking to people during that period. Like maybe later on when we're trying to like converge and like get information from people, it would have maybe been incredibly detrimental. But at the time it was basically show up, place, kick ass, grab loot, run. So it didn't come up that often, but I did try to play it like if she was going to go for information, it was like charm person. It was like trying to be like very socially unaware, or like not picking up those cues, or not using those to her advantage. Like it was such an interesting point early campaign, and it covered like so much of like what ended up sort of like branching out from there. But eventually, once that was like past, it was past. It's cool.
Awesome. All right, the next one comes from Chol. What was your all's favorite in-game character? My personal favorite being Pumpkin, of course. Good question. So other than your own character, of course, which should be at the top, but who is your second favorite?
I think everyone's favorite is Carla.
Of course. I mean, John, you go first.
Oh God. Pass. Can I come back to me?
Sure, Kazariel.
So our favorite characters outside of us three, is that kind of, should we do that? I mean, because
Yeah.
Carla's everyone's favorite, so we can just get that out of the way. Strahd was really good. The voice, the like role play, like the reactions, the repartee, really awesome. And Norman, of course.
Of course. Carl.
I think I have two. It's Sergey. Fucking loved how you did Sergey. Like, I always felt really connected to him. I always felt really like wanting to vie for him, and I think you really played the like stark contrast between him and Strahd so well. And then on top of that, Dr. Daskelu was just such a great villain. Like, as a DM, experiencing him as a character, incredible. As a player, experiencing him from my DM as a villain, incredible. Both just incredible character. All
Yeah, because there's a bit of
Harry.
there's a bit of history over there as well. Dr. Daskelu, who was a homebrew character on a homebrew map in a homebrew world of me, put into Barovia for funsies, has a bit of history because we played a two-shot where Carla Ann was the DM. Which is a lot of fun for many different reasons. For me, it was fun to also be able to play a character again. I don't mind being a DM all the time because I really love being a DM. But every once in a while, being able to play as a character is fun. So those one shots are sort of like my bandage for that. And I made a necromancer, and I called him Dr. Daskelu, and he was this sort of like German-themed kind of strange, creepy guy. And he was into two-shot, and into two-shot, he basically, very short because I don't want to spoil the two-shot itself, but into two-shot, they managed to get an item, which is called the Gilded Flask, and he managed to confiscate it and take it with him. For the two-shot, that didn't make any difference per se, but I had an ulterior motive with that because I wanted to pull that into the Curse of Strahd. What I did is he showed up over here, and he brought this flask with him. Brought it to Strahd and said, well, I can make a very special Lebenselixir with this. And he was basically given a mansion to go and experiment horrible things. Imagine Dr. Frankenstein, but then also alchemy. Terrible. And it was a lot of fun to just break off of Curse of Strahd and think like, okay, within this creepy world, how about Frankenstein? Right? And I basically modeled the entire house after that. It was a lot of fun to make it. And speaking for myself, yeah, I know they're played by myself, so I'm not sure if that technically counts because most characters were played by me outside of you three. I really did enjoy to play Dr. Daskelu in this manner because his voice was funny and he was just an evil bastard. I really enjoyed playing Strahd because he is such a smart, evil guy. Like, you know, a lot of games that you play in Dungeons & Dragons, you have this big evil boss at the end, like a beholder or a dragon, that you know is there, and you run into it at the very end of the story, and then there's this big, apotheosis of killing the big bad guy. But Strahd, you meet, like, in 3 episodes, he's going to be like, hello, welcome to my domain. That is great. He gets so much character, he gets so much storyline in this campaign. You really live with him in this world. And that to me was the reason why I loved him so much, and I just was very happy that the accent worked because it was very tricky to do. I had to really practice that for a long time before I sort of was happy with it. But I really enjoyed Strahd as well. Honorable mention within the story that I really enjoyed playing was Escher because of the tie-in. It was fun to have this sort of like weird character that had an ulterior motive. Now, obviously, the voice of that was predominantly done by Daniel. But behind the scenes, I was giving him like some bits and pieces. Like in this scenario, he would react roughly like this. And Daniel picked up on that beautifully, and it worked out so well. So definitely an honorable mention there.
That was interesting to play a character that there was a lot that I couldn't know about him, but what I did know, I was able to react in a way that I felt fit. So that was pretty cool. My characters that I liked the most, I've been waffling between a couple of them. I really like Ludmila and her interactions with Carla. I thought she was a really cool part of the world where it's like you had this influence of Strahd, but her will was not of his. At least it's what it seemed. And so she was out there doing her own experiments. You know, she was she wasn't really an ally, but she wasn't really an enemy. And
No, this is the place to find out what was up with Ludmilla. Was she bad guy or was she good guy?
Good point. If you guys have questions like that, feel
Yeah.
free to flip them in here because this is the moment to finally ask me.
I'm gonna
So good
ask
point.
a couple.
What was up with Ludmilla?
So Ludmilla was a bride of Strahd, and she sort of broke loose to do her own thing. Ludmilla is really a double agent. That's the best that I can describe her. Was she in league with Strahd? Technically not. She would rather see him fall, but she wasn't strong enough. She wasn't nearly willing enough to give it all up because, let's face it, when Strahd dies, it's undecided within the story whether or not all the vampires die that Strahd once created. It isn't explicitly said, though. That is sort of like a lore thing with vampires. So she could have just died when Strahd died, which would make her very much not want to die, through Strahd dying. On the other hand, she didn't really like him. So definitely double agent over there. Was she on your side while you were interacting with her? She would have never done anything aggressive against you, seeing as you were going to the Amber Temple. And you were going to do something for her, potentially. And you actually came back alive. That made her very impressed with you, because you survived one of the harshest, most dangerous places of Barovia.
All right.
She was never going to do anything against you.
I'm sorry. I need to quickly. We're going to go pause for just a second because I'm having.
We're good.
Aardvark.
Hey, hello.
That's the answer.
Technical difficulties happen to the best of us. Yeah, so let's go for the next question. Let's have a look. We all have our own favorite character moments, but what is your favorite other player character's moment? That's a good angle, because we all have our own. But what was the favorite moment of the other of one of the other players? John, what about you?
Okay, so they can't hear the audio of the thing, but they can hear you guys. So anyway, sorry, I'm still in streamer mode. My favorite character moments from the other characters.
Yes.
I think one of the first interactions that I'm kind of cheating because I'm bringing me into this. One of the first interactions that John and Carla had where they were traveling from I guess the party that they were in to the Vistani camp, and Carla's like super excited. She's about to, I'm going to write my story. It's going to be great. Do you guys want to have pseudonyms? And John's just like, I don't care. Like, first of all, he didn't understand what you were asking him. Secondly, he doesn't even care about you're writing a story. Why would you write a story? Just live your adventure. So the Carla being so excited and stuff like that, and just that interaction between the two, I felt like as they grew over time was amazing. How
you guys started off not liking each other. Kasariel and Carla, at the very beginning of the story, Kasariel had sought out Carla to help her find her mother. And so Carla and Kasariel had a working relationship together. And John was kind of annoyed by Carla at first, and then it came out really at the end. By the end of the story, I think you guys were closer than Kasariel and Carla really were. So you guys got really close as the story went on. That was cool.
Yeah, I think that was cool. And from Kasariel's standpoint, I still, from a character standpoint, I really love that snowball scene. Like, that was just a beautiful moment that showed both how vulnerable she was, but also how she sort of leaned on her friends to deal with that vulnerability.
Fair enough. Kasariel?
I think the moment where we first did the Moonlight Above, Chaos Below, Spirits Abound was pretty rad.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good one.
Are you, Carla?
Okay. I'm trying to think because there's very good ones. Okay, sorry. Okay, I think the hat with John getting the hat off the Burgermeister was the best. It was so funny. I just anytime Daniel decides to interact with an NPC is quite fun. For Casariel, I think it's like not one moment, but it's just several moments over combat. I love you, Daniel, and I love you, Papa. I'm always so excited when Marissa opens her mouth during combat because I'm always like, what's she gonna do? How's she gonna fuck up the enemy?
Oh no. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Because it's the Casariel clutch I've always had in my head of like whenever like I'm like, this is impossible, we're not gonna be able to beat it, we're gonna be beaten down. She's like healing as like a non-action, take some temporary hit points. And by the way, inflict wounds, really high level, I'm going to suck the life out of you. Like, yeah. A guiding bolt at like a fucking 6th level, yeah. And then casually, oh yeah, by the way, I move like my death beam into that like area. So I always, just from like a playing D&D standpoint, anytime Marissa like finished off an enemy or like just pulled out one of the big boys, it was great.
I happily forfeit like the floor for Marissa. I 100% agree with that. As much as I try to explain things, you got it nailed down. Whenever you start telling like, and I do this and you start moving your hands around, I've had moments where you were done telling your attack and I was like, so oh yeah, sorry, I'm leading the game. Like I was so into it.
Casariel really loved killing things.
Mm-hmm.
She relished it.
So funny that you should mention killing things. I prepped a couple of things for today, and I have actually roughly, so don't pin me on it, but I have roughly kept score of who killed the most creatures. Would you guys want to know?
Yes.
Yeah.
I know I'm not going to win, but I still want to know.
Who do you think?
I want to say Carla with fireballs.
I think Daniel with finishing blows, because I always remember being like we would wail on them and then Daniel would always get the final kill because he always had like the strings coming in, so that was always like really vivid. So I think it's Daniel.
I mean, I think it's Casariel, but I'm gonna say Daniel because I think Casariel is too easy.
It's not Daniel.
So I don't have specific numbers for a couple of reasons. One, I didn't keep count all the time, but I looked back in the episodes where I was like, I don't think I have all the numbers. But I skipped through those. So it might be that I'm off with a couple. Plus, there are a couple of kills where you basically worked together. So I counted those as like one for each because, you sort of did it together. Tallying all that up, the one with the most kills by a very small margin is Casariel. But secondly, and that might be surprising, is Carla.
I did a lot of area of effect stuff.
Yeah.
I got a lot
and that
of
just
small
shredded enemies. Yes.
Yep. Yeah.
I think John hits really hard a single target.
Yep. So altogether, you were really on par. It's like single-digit differences. You were very close to each other, which again shows it was a good group. You guys worked together very well. But I figured I should share that. Favorite character moment from my perspective to you guys? For John, there is one that wasn't mentioned just yet, but was for me a very exhilarating moment. It was the interaction in Argynvostholt. When John, that was his first time when you came out of your shell against Vladimir. Vladimir was the incumbent leader of Argynvostholt, and he was this bitter, I don't want to let go kind of guy, right? Like he was put in a position that he didn't want to be. He was filled with hatred. He didn't want to let go of anything, and he was just angry. He wouldn't take yes for anything. Everything was just, we're not going to do that.
Mm.
And John, as much as you role play very mellow to a degree and very understanding and very sort of like, easygoing, that was the first moment where you just exploded like, this is wrong. And it was such a heavy roleplay moment. And as much as we're all good role players here and we know that it's roleplay, we had that just before the break. And when we were done, we went into the break and I was like, I just really want to make sure, are we all okay? Because it was such a tense roleplay moment.
Yeah.
Consequently, this is not a question that I know of, but least favorite character in the entire thing? Fucking Vladimir, because Papa played him so well. Every time we went to Argynvostholt, like I felt myself getting annoyed because I'm like, we have to fucking talk to this guy. I fucking hate this guy. So, rightly so that John hated him so much. Because I was like, yeah, get him, John.
I feel like it was like the disappointment of somebody else who was sworn to uphold and to help others to basically give in to his own hatred and resentment. And when he said, they don't have souls, what good are they? Or they're nothing anyway. that was the moment. It's like, how dare you?
Dude, you flared
how
up.
dare you? Yeah. So, I think I'm always worried about peaking the mic, or that's why I have this mic, because it doesn't peak as well. But I'm always worried about hurting other people's ears. But like, I really like losing myself to the emotions and just being the character. And so that was a really fun moment.
It was beautiful. With you, Casario, I think my favorite moment was how you handled the whole approach towards your mother, because I did notice at some point you didn't want to know what you were getting into, but you kind of felt like, uh-oh. But the way you carried that all the way to the end, having to actually confront your mother, kill your mother, but then still sort of save her, was just a beautiful run. And you played that so well in character, because that is difficult to play that. And you did, like, with an A+. You did beautifully. For Carla, honestly, just the way you carried your character through all of this, because you stayed very true to your character, but a defining moment that I thought was when you learned about what happened to Irina. You became so vigilant there. That was another moment where you showed the other side of Carla. And I thought it was just beautiful. That was, again, for me, a moment where I could just sit back, relax, and be like, look at that. Wow. I really enjoyed that.
Look at the small halfling.
God, when Carla would get up to like a bar top and like put her head up there, like, and be like, hi, like, there's so many good Carla moments.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, it happened episode 1, and I was like, oh, this is going to be so good.
I like when we went to the store and she's like, is that grappling hook on the map? Is that really there? Like, oh, actually, no, it's not. Well, what is there? What can I take? Just the mindset of like, I'm taking something. I just want to know what it is. That was great.
Beautiful. All right. Next question from John, actually. You put something in as well. What are some loose ends that you wish the group had followed up on? Good question. And I'm going to ask you the same thing, because you guys know that there are still a couple of loose ends, and I'm wondering what you guys would think. But from my perspective, there's a lot. So I'm not going to mention all of them, because some of them are cooler than others. Honestly, the storyline in Vallaki, in its entirety, would have been a very fun thing to follow up on, but a lengthy story as well. It would include the Burgomaster of Vallaki. It would include Lady Wachter and the history behind Lady Wachter, and a couple of other things over there. Igor Strazani, the guy with the demon arm, like that is just part of one big story of Vallaki. Would be fun if you guys would have delved into that. Didn't make much difference in the grand scheme of things, but it was a fun little story to dive into. Other than that, I guess the werewolves, but they're not. Again, not that big of a difference. And there was one part which you guys completely skipped, but I also didn't really bring you guys to it, which was Lake Zarovic, which is the Grand Lake behind Vallaki. There is a bit of an interesting interaction over there with a fishing boat. There's a guy basically over there fishing. And once you get a little bit more familiar with him, you notice that there's a girl in his boat that he is trying to drown. And that will lead you actually to a cave. Yeah.
Are you okay? Oh. Yikes.
We didn't save Arena, that brings we didn't save the girl in the lake. God.
Don't tell her that.
We didn't save a whole lot of people. And that will bring you to a cave with a couple of Gith in there. Who are, that's really cool. Who are sort of like secluded in the world. And they have a little story going on as well. Again, not too detrimental. But those were some fun stories that we just really didn't get to.
I thought of a question.
What about, yep.
What was up with the chest at the bottom by the lake? Remember?
Yeah. Where we got
underwater.
Yeah.
What was going on?
It was exactly what I hoped it would be. It is such a blatant trap that everyone, because I've been playing this module with other groups as well. Everyone is like, nope, move on. I don't care if it's 1,000 gold, move on. That's a trap. I don't care. Move on.
You mean the one just underneath the bridge that we go over?
Yeah, the one with where the waterfall is. You know, where you met the drunken guy.
We ended up getting like 300 gold from that or something like that, I think.
Yes.
Okay.
So there's nothing wrong with that chest. It's just a whole bunch of gold. Someone just dropped it there. Just probably dropped off of a Vistani wagon. And the only trap that's really there is when you try and get it, there's a couple of ice methods that come down from the water, from the the icy waters of the mountains, that will attack you. So at lower levels, that is a bit of a threat. You guys were smart. You came back at a higher level, and it wasn't nearly as much of a threat. You guys were still sort of like, oh, let's go, but you could have gotten all of it, probably. So it was just a chest with gold, nothing more.
I have a couple others, but I think I put them in like questions for chat so we can have them at the end.
Sure.
I think oh god, I just had it on the tip of my tongue. What's it called? The Shield Maidens. Was there anything to
Yes.
do with them, or did we interact with them as much as we could?
It wasn't described more than what I did with them. I was considering if you guys would have dived into that I would tie them in with the village that was over there, and that they would basically be the time lost family of them, because the people in the village where you guys went to, they couldn't leave the boundaries, right? And when they did, they would rapidly age, and that would have hinted at that they would die, and I would have played it as that they would be the spirits that would carry on indefinitely. Other than that, there's not much written about them, and I didn't really have anything else prepped because, yeah, there's no story there.
Time.
And that's one, I promise, before we go. Time, yes. What are you going to do? Time, we're going to do time. But the duelist that John battles in the Tome of Strahd, does she have any, like, place in the story that we just happened to miss out on?
Oh, not really. She is she's just a confidant of the court of Ravenloft. She's just there as filler a little bit. There is a bit of homebrew that gives her a more important position. She is sort of like a family member to Leo Delisnia, who is the prime antagonist of Strahd, right? He's basically the guy that orders Strahd to be killed during the wedding. Don't know if you guys knew that, but in case you didn't, there you go. And she's sort of like a family member to them. Her major role outside of being a duelist is that she, at some point, joins the Church of the Morning Lord. She becomes an understudy of Gabriel, and she officiates the wedding, right? Because she is an understudy, she's allowed to do that. Later on in the Tome of Strahd, she actually has one more encounter where she gets killed by Strahd because she actually defies him, and she's like, "No, the Morning Lord prevails, you don't." And he shows her that no, it's the other way around.
Thank you.
The cobbler, the shoemaker.
Yes. So the shoemaker is a hint to go to the Burgomaster's mansion, because the Burgomaster is an absolute asshole in Vallaki. This is one of the storylines that I would have loved you guys to follow up. The Burgomaster, as you have noticed, Vallaki is under some sort of like, well, you can almost call it a curse at this point, where people have to celebrate whatever he thinks of every like 2 or 3 days. And there's posters being hung up, as you guys have noticed, as celebrating the Festival of Sticks or the Festival of whatever. The cobbler had once defied the Burgomaster at some point and said, this is bullshit, we don't want to do this, why don't you take a hike? And instead of being put in a donkey mask, if you really defy the Burgomaster, you basically get a whipping. And that's what happened with him. They took him to the Burgomaster's mansion. They gave him a thorough beating, and they threw him in a room, basically, to die off. He would have been severely wounded if you guys would have found him. You didn't, so he probably died.
Dang.
Yet another person that you guys didn't save.
I have a couple more, but I put them in the questions from chat or to the cast. So we'll get to those later, I suppose.
Sure. Anything else on this, or should we move on to the next one?
I do have one more that might just be a quick one, just because it probably didn't really lead anywhere. The 2 gravediggers that we met when Carla saw herself in the gallows.
Yes.
Were they just like hints to Daskalu, essentially, or were, because we were kind of like, we want to get out of here?
Yeah, so rules is written, basically the core story. They are just there as a very small introduction to combats, because it's one of your first combats in the wide world outside of the Death House and everything. And it's sort of a avoidable combat situation where if you do a couple of good charisma checks, you can talk yourself out of it. If you don't, you get battle. It's one of those prep sessions, basically. They weren't doing anything specific over there. They're just literally grave robbing, and there's not really a story tied to that. And I thought that was very unfortunate, because there should be something tied to it. Why would they be there? Who is giving them an assignment? At that point, I was prepping Daskalu, and I was like, well, of course they're helping him out. Of course they are. So that was the tie-in there. Yeah.
I just love how they were starting to be antagonists. Like, oh, you're get out of our business. It was like, and we just walked by, flipped them off, fuck off, and kept going.
Yeah.
A lot of
Get
our
off.
life.
This is my leg.
Good stuff.
All right. Next one is from me, actually, to the three of you, because this is something that I, now that the campaign is over, would really love to know. Looking back at the whole story, what were some of the moments where you as players felt really immersed in the story? Like, Carla, you just mentioned one, but did you have moments like that during the story?
God, there were so many. I think that's the thing. It was always the little moments that helped build the bigger picture. Like when Strahd leans down to like kiss Casariel's hand or whatever, or she leans over him and like you can see him like almost do it the way you describe that helped kind of bring the immersion into like he's not like because I don't know how you two viewed Strahd. Like in my head, I was always keeping in mind the fact that Carla really hated him, but in a way of like you are bad and I'm going to kill you, as opposed to you are this big scary entity. It was just kind of like you need to die. I need to get out of here. Always very like self-thinking for it, but like in that moment, I was kind of like out of Carla at that point because I was like, oh, he's like a scary monster. He's like terrifying, actually. So that was like a really great immersion moment later on that I remember, but I know that like it's always the little bits. It's like when you just really go into the description of a scene, really like always helped to just bring the world a little bit more alive,
As a trail on from that, I know this is my question, but I want to add one thing in there. Now that we're talking about Strahd, as an evil guy, what do you guys think was his ulterior motive? What was the plan all along? Did you guys get any indication of what his plan was?
Well, I will say that what Casariel thought the plan was and what I think the actual plan was very different. And like,
Okay.
I think Casariel thought there was some big master plan that her mother had cooked up with her father to like, or that her mother had cooked up to have Casariel and then set up all of this stuff. Because, I forgot to mention earlier, Casariel's mother had sung a lullaby, if you missed this in the story, to her whole childhood. And it was just something that she always remembered. It was like this little music box thing. And then it was like a riddle that helped Casariel and the group figure out a mystery later in Barovia. I forgot why I said that now. But I think so because of all these little things, I thought that there was going to be like okay, all we have to do is get you to come back. You can save your father. And, like Casariel thought like all of these crazy things. So the fact that it was just his selfishness all along, like I think he was just selfish all along. And they're like, I was a little confused by like I'm ready to die thing. Was that just a lie? Like he never wanted to give up all the power?
I'll tell you after all three of you have had your shot.
Did you already answer, Carla?
Like, okay, Carla kind of viewed him... Carla originally, like, the brief mentionings of him were always very much in the, like, vein of, like... I don't even think we got that many, honestly, before we actually met him. But I feel like it was just kind of like, okay, cool, another person who rules the land. She has a very, like, blasé sort of feeling about anything that's, like, higher up, because to her, the world is about, like, mysteries. But, like, when he showed up and he, like, immediately murdered someone, and then that was like, okay, bad leader, and then it was the, like, the added, like, personalized sort of, like, and it's because of her. I think Carla always saw him as really selfish and really self-serving, and finding out more about, like, him learning magic and stuff like that, it was always like, okay, this place doesn't operate normally. What I know of magic from college is that this is kind of like a magically enclosed place, but like what's holding us? Is it vampire? Is it Strahd? And then finding out it's Strahd as like a lich was another sort of thing of like, okay, he really is just mad with power. For the entire time. She entirely always thought he was just very self-motivated, selfish. Like because to her, people are their actions and all that sort of stuff. So the fact that he would just continuously go on this cycle, but there was no clear sign of possession, and the things that he was doing anyway just kind of indicated that he wasn't great in like regular life as well. So that's all Strahd's motives were just like selfish in my head.
Kasariel's mother's journal mentioned several times that Strahd had helped her. So that very much painted Kasariel's view of Strahd throughout the whole adventure. I mean, her mom said that he was good, so she kept trying to find reasons to defend him. And she knew this master plan was finally going to come to fruition. So she really she was campaigning for him the entire campaign. So.
What about you, John?
I think this is kind of a failing on my part to be aligned with the character that I should have been playing. He wasn't supposed to be good. John was always, his whole thing is to stop conflict. It doesn't matter if that conflict is just or right. It matters that they aren't supposed to be, things aren't supposed to be fighting. Things aren't supposed to be at odds. And if they are, it's my job to stop it. There are limits to that. Like if something is directly threatening his friends or innocence or anything like that, and if the only way to stop the violence is to kill, you're permitted to kill. So he's not supposed to be this good, friendly, I want to go out of my way to help people who are in need. If someone is on the side of the road and needs help, I don't know how they got there. Maybe they shouldn't be helped. It's not my job. If somebody's on the side of the road being beaten by somebody, he's going to step in. But that's where the line is. So when it comes to Strahd, the first thing he saw Strahd do was defend himself. The man who he killed was running at him with intent to kill. And from John's perspective, he was supposed to stop Ismark. Now, the fact that Strahd had so much power that he could have stopped it without further violence, that was like, oh, you're an asshole. I get it. But from John's perspective, Strahd didn't do anything wrong in that moment. So going forward, he had a very neutral perspective towards Strahd. He thought he was an asshole leader, but the world is full of asshole leaders. So he didn't think he was evil. He didn't think he was a lunatic or a maniac. He just thought he was, like the other two said, selfish, but not to the extent that he was supposed to overthrow him. Later on, when they found out that he was essentially sapping the strength of the world, he was, torturing people, delighted in it. That's where it was like, okay, now I can do something about it. But a lot of aspects of John, I didn't really play true to the whole neutral, I guess, what was it? He wasn't neutral good. He was lawful neutral. That was it. He was lawful neutral.
Yes.
And so that was going to be sort of the tilting point where if he was going to take up arms against Strahd, he's actually going outside of his oath. And he was breaking his oath to be more quote unquote good. But it was not necessarily going to. And there's another question that just came in from Mecca that I'll answer, get a little bit more in detail for that later. But
sure.
So yeah, Strahd, from his perspective, was just an asshole leader, but he had no right to depose him until later on what he found out.
Interesting. Okay, so I think this is as good a moment as any to tell you what was Strahd's motive. Why was he there? What was he doing with you guys? So Strahd is Strahd is an ogre because he has layers. With all jokes aside, Strahd is very much a layered enemy, and that is one of the great things about role-playing him, because he has a lot of different faces. He's also very difficult to put into action without revealing what he truly is. Strahd has a lot of things going on. First off, in life, yeah, he wasn't necessarily selfish, but he came from a family there where he was pushed. He was going to become the next king. He needed to prove himself. He was very harshly treated by Rahadin, who trained him. All in all, not a happy childhood, and this sort of fierce instillment of you need to prove yourself. You're going to have a lot of duties on your shoulders. You need to be the man that your father is. In so doing, he went out to conquer a land. This is what brought Strahd to Barovia in the first place. He wanted to conquer a land, show that he could, show that he's boss, build a castle, live in it, basically be lord of the land, and then, finally get his father's approval. That, in essence, is what Strahd's motivation was in life. He ran into Irina. He became very enamored with her. He wanted to have her hand in marriage. His brother came along. His brother is a lot more good-looking than him and younger. Irina fell for him. Strahd didn't like that. That's all part of the story, right? So Strahd really wants to get Irina, and he doesn't really know how to do that because he's always been busy with battle and whatnot. Strahd isn't good at the whole social interaction, the whole courting someone. It's just not his forte. So instead of learning how to do that, what does he do? Well, he seeks it through the only thing he knows, power. And he's heard of this power in the Amber Temple. So he goes there, he basically lays his life on the line out there, and he's like, I would do anything for love. And as beautiful as that might sound, you guys saw what that does to a man, right? Because he gets possessed by a freaking demon. So up until that point, you might sympathize with him to a degree. It's like, that's terrible. As much as he is conquering a land in ways that are maybe questionable, ulteriorly, there might be a hint of good in there, perhaps. But then there is the shift, right? He dies, he becomes a vampire, and what then? Well, over the course of many centuries, while he is a vampire, Strahd changes. He's already lost the very thing that he basically gave his life for, which is love, because, Irina took her own life. He's lost the very thing what he wanted there, so he focuses on the other thing that he loves most, which is power. So Strahd becomes very power-obsessed. He learns magic. He learns how to become a lich. He actually turns himself into a lich. He instills a lot of fear and terribleness into the world that he owns. But even that gets boring after centuries and centuries. So the final stage, and this is why he's so layered, the final stage of Strahd is that he is basically tired of it all. He doesn't want this anymore. But he's not about to just off himself. He's not about to give up. And even if he would try, he knows deep down inside that he just can't just lay back down and that's it, because of the curse that he has. Strahd basically thinks that the only way to get out of the pickle that he's in is to find a worthy successor. But Strahd very much understands that he will not get that through conventional means, because he's dead. He can't really get a kid anymore. So the only way to get a successor is to find someone who could fill his boots. And if someone could, he would happily give up the throne. That is, in essence, his prerogative. But where it gets funny is when he finally finds people that might fill his boots, which would be adventurers, like you guys. The second you guys come into Barovia, Strahd starts testing you. Everything that happened to you was a test through Strahd. Of course, there are people in Barovia that did various things to you guys as well, but a lot of it were all tests. Strahd was testing you guys out, seeing how would you react to this, how would you react to that. Strahd controls a whole lot of Barovia. But the second you guys might prove yourself, Strahd immediately gets hurt by the very essence that is pushing him to try and test you. He gets hit in the fact that he is still the leader and you guys might overtake him. And this is where Strahd is sort of like a double face. On one side, he wants you guys to take his place. But on the other side, he's like, you're not worthy. You're not as good as I am. And he will try to destroy you. That is the battle that he's fighting internally. And as you guys level up and as you guys get better and actually defy him, that battle gets stronger and stronger until he becomes unbelievable. And that is exactly what you guys felt. At the end, you were like, this is impossible. What you want from us is just bullshit. And it is because Strahd is so internally conflicted and finally turns on you. But as you might have noticed during the story, and this was something that I very carefully tried to craft, during the story, I've had moments where I tried to pit you guys against each other. There were moments where the three of you had a distinctly different opinion about the world, or about Strahd, or about Irina, or about things. Where the three of you looked at each other and were like, I don't agree with you. And that's exactly what Strahd wanted, pitting you against each other, hopefully even getting you guys to disagree and be angry with one another, so that one might come out successfully, and that would be his successor. Only you wouldn't, because the second you would be, Strahd would be like, but you're not good enough, I will kill you. There's no winning with Strahd. And that makes him such an amazing enemy, but also very difficult to roleplay. So ultimately, what you guys experienced was exactly what he was. A selfish, deranged guy that there was no saving him. There was no overtaking. There was only one option, which is quite literally killing him.
I don't. That's a really cool explanation. I'm sorry, but my mind went off track at the end there because you were talking about Strahd, and then I got to the thing about I am a pretty girl, and then I went to Galadriel. Instead of a Dark Lord, you would have a queen, strong and powerful as the moon in the. Anyway.
All right. Next one. What, for the three of you, what was your favorite map that we went through?
Castle Ravenloft for me.
Good pick.
I really like the Death House. I really enjoyed it.
I liked Daskaloo's Manor because it changed. You had two versions of it. One, dingy and covered in blood and guts and organs. And then you had one where we could actually call a home. I thought that was cool.
Thank you for engaging with that insanity, by the way. I appreciate it.
You gave us
That was like a turn on the dime. You guys were like, shall we make this into our home? And I was like, okay, quickly making a note for myself. Like, I need a moment to change the map before, because that is a map that I made myself. I was like, I need a moment for that. Okay. For me, it was, I as much as I created it myself, but it was fun making it. The maps for Daskaloo were fun. The other one that really caught my eye was the Sanguine Rose of the brothel, made by Diamandi. Also, the whole Sanguine Rose thing was a bit of homebrew made by Diamandi. That's not part of the core story. And I loved it so much that I wanted to incorporate it because it was his story, and because it's his story, you can see the attention to detail on the map. It was so beautiful. So I really enjoyed that one as well. It's so red and vibrant. And, most of the maps of Strahd aren't really vibrant because the whole world is, dead. So having a bit of color on screen was fun.
He's here to smell my roses.
Oh, God, that was a good moment
good
as well. That was
moment.
very funny. He's going to smell my roses. Yes, good moment. All right, I have a whole bunch of questions from Victionator. So I will go through them one by one. First off, I got a couple for the DM. So if you guys would allow me, then I'll go through those and then I'll get back to you guys. Question for the DM. First off, why did you left out the entire side quest of Mad Mary? So Mad Mary is a side quest that you guys could have gotten into. She is a lady that lives in the village of Barovia, and her daughter is actually taken away from her, and she is so grieving about that she's stricken with grief and gone mad. That girl is actually found in Ravenloft, so way later in the story, when you guys go to Ravenloft and you enter Strahd's bedroom, she's actually in Strahd's bed. And while she isn't turned yet, she is basically sitting there like, no, but Strahd is good. He's nice to me. He buys me new clothes, like blissfully unaware of the danger that she is in. It's a really cute kind of storyline that is that takes very long, because there's a starting part at the very start of the story, and then you only meet her, finally at the end when you're in Ravenloft. The whole reason why we didn't do it is you guys never got to Mad Mary. So we skipped it out. It was only that. There was nothing more to the story than just that. But yeah, you guys never ran into her.
I want to step in and say that this has actually been one of the most conflicting and enjoyable parts of doing D&D for me, is the fact that I generally approach games or stories from a completionist standpoint. I'm the kind of person who, I know there's other people out there like this. You had a choose your own adventure story that there were 100 endings and you had to find the right pages and stuff. I would go through backwards, find the endings, and then try to note out exactly the path I needed to take to get every ending so I could do every single story in this choose your own adventure. I want to know everything about Skyrim. I've never finished Skyrim. I hate that game. I'm never going to finish it. D&D is the first game I've played that has sort of broken me out of that, where I'm playing a character and that character doesn't need to know everything or search for everything. We go over the bridge and there's a thing of gold down in the water. In a game, I'm going to do everything I can to get that gold. As a character, I'm like, that's dangerous. Why would I go down there? So those kinds of moments, the fact that we miss something, as a completionist, I go, content. We missed content. As a D&D player, I'm like, man, this world was complicated. That's awesome.
All right, next one from Vic is, as a DM, isn't it very disappointing when your players avoid an entire piece of combat and or roleplay which you've got prepared? Fair point, and I'm going to say no, for two reasons. Yes, you do prepare areas that the players ultimately will skip or that they're too smart to just, actually interact with because they're just smart cookies. Two things I'll say about that. One, it is just the essence of D&D. You can't force a story on your players because you're not railroading them. You prepare an area, and if they go through that area in a path that you didn't expect, there's something fun about that. And if they, in so doing, miss a part of the story, c'est la vie. That's part of D&D. If it's really important to the story, it's probably going to pop up somewhere else anyways. And from a positive view, I will say there are a couple of moments in the story where you guys were circumventing something, but it came back later on in the story. Saved me on prep work. I had it already lying there. I already had it prepped. The only thing I had to change was okay, you're a slightly higher level now, so that has an effect or not. So isn't it disappointing? No, it really isn't. But it happens. That's something you'll have to accept as a DM. The players will not ever play 100% of what you prepped, and that's okay because it's D&D. Which map beside Daggerford and Dr. Daskaloo's place did you make yourself? That is a good question because I supplemented a couple of maps, but I definitely didn't make all of them. I'm quickly going to go through the list. I know I made the camp map, right, where you guys had a little camp with your bedrolls. I made that one. The Death House wasn't by DM Andy, but also wasn't by me. I started making that map, but then I didn't have the time to finish it, so I got it from, I believe, a Reddit area. Let's see. Honestly, I think those are the only maps that I made for the Curse of Strahd. Yeah, no, those are the only ones that we used over here. So the first map, Daggerford, the camp map, and Dr. Daskaloo. Those are the only ones that I made myself. I will say, however, for the next campaign that we're going to be playing, the Odysseys of Dragonlords, all of the maps, none excluded, are made by me. So that's going to be a stark contrast. Let's see. Could we use the maps that you've made in our campaigns as well, such as Dr. Daskaloo's Manor? Yes, you can soon, TM, because we are considering making a Patreon through which we are going to make available the maps that I made. So more on that later, TM, but we will be making something like that in the near future. If you are in our Discord, you will learn of that as soon as we have made the decision. Last week, I have finally introduced Escher in my campaign, thanks to the incredible voice acting of Drunky. All my players really enjoyed that. Do you have any things John didn't do and or say as Escher? That's a difficult question because I don't really have an answer for that. Daniel's a wonderful role player, and I gave him a couple of pointers like, Escher would roughly react like this in a scenario like that, and roughly like this in a scenario like that.
I think you said something to the effect of treat it almost like elegance or like a dancer. How would they interact?
Yeah, if you would, instead of fighting with someone, imagine that he would be sort of dancing around someone else and just sort of playfully playing off of one another. That is the essence of what Escher is. Just very, very, very high on a high horse like that. And Daniel rolled with it, and honestly, that was really the only cue I had to give him. So, no, that's what it is. And finally, could you send the MP3 files to us of the music you're using? No, because a lot of the places that I got the music off of, I can't recall, so I can't just bundle them up and send them to you. But I am considering perhaps making a playlist of it, of all the music that I've been using. And again, that is something I will probably throw on Patreon. So you'll have a place where everything is just bundled together. So more on that probably later. And then Vic has a couple of questions for you guys. First off, why have you guys chosen for this lineup? A Paladin, Warlock, a Cleric, and a Bard Rogue?
well balanced, really. I know that when we were all coming together and saying something like, I think it was Marissa said cleric, which clerics are deceiving. You think like they're not just like priests; they are like little demigods running around. Like they have different powers depending on that. So like clerics are really well balanced. I know Daniel already kind of went into why he picked Hexblade Paladin because dungeon dudes and the stuff that they did there.
Big meaty hitman.
And yeah, that allowed him to be a tank, which was great because I know that he picked that, and then I was like, okay, that's basically permission to go for like a little bit of a spellcaster and a little bit weaker because I know the two of them will be strong. So that's kind of why I picked Bard because I was interested in it. But if it was like a case of the other two had like spellcasters or maybe something a little weaker, I would have went for something balanced. And I think that's something we really kept in mind because we're 3 players and we're also trying to make a show, so it kind of balanced out to like it would be better if we could get through combat as opposed to suffering and hopefully getting through it, you know?
Yep, and for me, Kasariel's mother was a Twilight cleric of Saloon, so like mother, like daughter.
I don't think.
I believe I recall that you said that like you only made it to level like 4 or 5.
Somewhere around there. Mm-hmm.
And you wanted to experience like the full Monty, right? What about you, John? The Paladin Warlock combination, where did that come from?
Yeah, we talked like Carlos said, we talked about kind of like why that initially, but I really did like the whole aspect of having the internal conflict, and I know everybody wants to do this. Everybody wants to do this with their character. They want to make them, have multiple personalities. I have, multiple voices I can do, or multiple personalities I can be. That kind of gives you the range to be able to say, I'm actually playing 2 characters. And I really did lean into that. I liked the aspect of, every now and again, he would be essentially possessed. And that kind of helped us through, I think, a couple of puzzles where as Daniel was like, oh my God, I want to engage with this. I really like it, but John doesn't give a shit. So I was able to come in as Ashes like, oh, this is intriguing. Oh, so I just have to rearrange these little body parts. I love it. So it was great. I don't think we realized, or I don't think we intended initially to make a really good anti-undead group, but that's kind of how it came out to shook out. So
fair enough. Yeah.
Carla was very pro undead, but not. Thank you.
True. Yeah. She's also good at fighting them, probably.
And finally, from Vic, may we get the PDFs of the players' character sheets?
Go to our Discord and go onto the bar and search for the character sheets because they are there.
I was going to say, they're posted. Yeah.
I think they might even be pinned. I'm not sure.
They should be pinned, and if they're not, then we can definitely pin them. But they should be there. Next up from the Brentist. This is a question you want to know as well, John. I really want to know more about those saving throws from the Amber Temple. John kept failing so many, but I never really got to see what they were supposed to be for. That ate away at you, didn't it? All right, so I'm going to have to come clean on that. It is 2 things. First off, I let you throw so many more than you had to because it's fun to see you sweat. But secondly, there was a reason for it. Not all of them, but quite a few of them. They just had a very high threshold. Whenever something happened within the Amber Temple, you guys know, right? Like the Amber Temple is basically just a prison because all of those amber vaults, the amber, bits that had like the dark energy in them, they were all containing an old god, which is just like this immense power that could grant you something, but in return take something away from you. Mind you, you've noticed, you've met a couple of them. All of them had a very, very strong gift to give, but the question was it worth the price that they were asking for? And you would never know what in turn you would have to give. A couple of them were very detrimental. Some of them weren't that much, but it really depends on the type of player that you are. For example, there was a god out there that could literally give you like an immense strength, but in turn, it would basically turn your tongue to ash and you would never be able to speak again. That's a gamble. If you are a character that doesn't care about that, that's wonderful. In most cases, that is a very bad deal. And there's a plethora more.
Like
more
somebody
choices
that
there.
already has no tongue? Like, who is that a good deal for?
There's people out there that are like, I can still telepathically communicate or whatever, and that's, I'll work with that. There's always a creative solution to the problems that are there.
That's true.
But
I guess
it's
if
a
you want to be
choice.
strong. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a choice. And honestly, looking at all of them, there were one or two where I was like, I kind of get it if you guys would take it. One of them you actually took, the third eye for Carla. I was like, yeah, that fits
Took
you guys as characters.
is a strong word. I failed a
That
saving.
is a strong word.
It's a little different. I mean, but there was a moment where we got like hey, is this actually going to happen? So that's
Fair. It was bestowed upon you. But it wasn't too detrimental. It sort of like did work with the party. There were a couple where I was like, if you guys are going to get that, that's trouble. So what were the saving throws for? Well, whenever you would get close to these amber vehicles, I would, behind the scenes, roll a dice to see who would be affected by it. And honestly, like sometimes the dice are just cursed. I believe like 8 out of 10 times it rolled for John. So that's why I asked John to do saving throw for that. And that saving throw would hit like in the area of like 18 to 20. If you would hit that, 18, 19, or 20, you would actually be affected by it and it would try to pull you in. There were a couple of exceptions where the score was lower, in which case it happened that you guys were sort of like pulled in to talk with this evil power. But in most cases, unless you actually chose to get into the room, you should be safe, barring a very bad roll. And that's where the saving throws came from. And you just lucked out of all of those rolls. It would have been very unlucky to roll that terrible, but you did well.
But so do you mean if I had to roll an 18, 19, or 20 in order to have it affect me?
Yes.
Okay, so it's the opposite then. If I roll good, it's bad for me. Oh.
Exactly.
Every time I was like, well, all right, I need a wisdom saving throw. I got a 2. I mean, wisdom saving throw. I got better. It's a 4. And just
only time that your fucking dice curse was worth it. The only time he was actually rolling well, but rolling poorly.
Yeah, and that was why I loved it, because it was eating away at you, and I knew full well what was happening, and I was like, because you roll, indeed, at some point you rolled like a 2, and you were like, well, whatever's going to happen, this is terrible, and I was like, really isn't?
And you were like, we'll see what happens soon. I'm like,
nothing. All right. Next up from Jesu. Barry, was there any bigger quest you prepared and that the party elegantly avoided? Not really. Oh, there's more to it. Sorry. Example. I noticed that you mentioned Artemis Fiodyatsov in the wedding chapter of the interactive tome. I did. Did you plan to run Fiodyatsov Manor? No, I didn't. That is an optional module. If you guys don't recognize the name, when you guys were at the wedding of Strahd, you talked to DM Andy, right? The understudy of the architect of Ravenloft. Now, the architect of Ravenloft is Artemis Fiodyatsov. Difficult name.
Wait, I'm sorry. I just want to stop you for 1 second. If it's something that we can do as a one-shot later,
yes,
then maybe we should keep it like a secret, and the band can get back together later to handle this problem.
Interesting.
I don't know if it is or not, but
I can definitely run that as a one shot. Yes, I can, because it's big enough for that. It's a relatively short one shot, but I can code it a little bit. Yeah, I definitely can. What you will know then from the story is it was the architect of Ravenloft, and he has a mansion somewhere in the world. You guys never visited it because I didn't include it, but hey, good point. That might be a one shot. Yes. All right. With that, I will skip over the question because let's remember that.
sorry.
No.
As a matter of fact, that's a good save.
Connect one-on-one.
It's good to have a couple of one shots where we can revisit these characters, because I'm gonna miss you guys as characters. Like it's. Let's see. Next one from Alu. To the players, what was each of your members' most memorable moments during the adventure? We already answered that, so I'm gonna respectfully skip over that. To the DM, which boss did you enjoy being during the Curse of Strahd? I basically answered that already. Strahd.
Yeah. Oh,
Like, Strahd
I was
is
going to say Daskalu, but okay. Yeah.
Well, Dusklu as well, but Strahd was my favorite because he's just cool. Strahd is cool.
My favorite one was Asher. best boss in the game.
Until he totally got sent to a different dimension because no, he was just killed like a bitch.
Dazkalu was sent to the
Dazkalu was sent to like that was such a
Wow.
power move as well. I did not expect that. I was like, oh, I'm gonna bring back
That's another
Dazkalu.
one
You guys
shot.
would be like, oh no. And
That's another one shot. We're gonna get back to Neverwinter and find out he's been rampaging through the countryside. It's like, oh shit.
Yep, fair point. That's another one shot. Together with the other guy that you banished, Rahadi.
Yeah. God, where did he go though? Like, was it Neverwinter as well? I assume.
He banishing would send him back to the plane of origin, and he would have come from the what are those forests again? I forgot the name. But there's a foresty area which is not too far from Neverwinter, so they would definitely be able to meet up. That's a one shot. I can smell.
Oh,
it.
boy.
So,
Oh.
From Chol, is there anything the players wished they did differently, or anything the DM wished they did differently? In a broad perspective, good question. So, is there anything that you guys, looking back now on the campaign, is there anything you guys think you would have wanted to do differently as a player or as a character?
I would have really liked to have spent a bit more time in places that we were like the urgency of the quests always really felt really urgent. So I think like sometimes that prompted us to go fast through places. Like I'm thinking specifically of like when Kerala had the third eye, is there were so many places that we could have gone where we could have either exploited that sort of mechanic or would have provided really interesting actions, but we had just gotten the gem. So the only thing in mind was go return the gem, because the longer we have it on us, the more dangerous life is in Barovia. And once we get there, it's cured. So then like, not that like it's robbed of that interaction, but it's like we don't get, there's just bits that I just wish we had spent a little bit more time at here and there. Just to fill out and kind of see more and get more like content out of it, but at the same time, like the fact that the quest felt so urgent, where it's good to be like how invested we were in the story. So it's a balance, but that's one thing I do wish.
That's fair. What about you, Casario?
Yeah, I wish that I would have handled Casario's mom differently. Because I don't know that there's a cure for vampirism, but I do know I have a remove curse spell. I don't know if I had it at that time. So yeah, I would like to have kind of explored more there. I think as a player, sometimes you have to like creep into the game a little bit and decide, okay, is this what, like, this is a lot. Like, and then what is she gonna do? You know what I mean? Like, I was thinking through all those things. So I think, and I also think Casariel in the moment was traumatized.
Emotionally devastated.
Emotionally damaged. So I, you know, like obviously her mother wouldn't want to be something unholy, but then did she do this on purpose? Is she like this on purpose? And she was like, join me. It was a whole thing. So yeah, I think that maybe I would have handled a little bit different.
Fair enough. Are you, John?
I think from a player perspective, I have John's in a second, but from a player perspective, my biggest fear and what I feel like happened a few times is stepping on someone else's moment, and like if someone else is doing something, they have something good going on, and then like I see a moment where John would say something. Sometimes you just let what's happening happen because you want to see it resolve. So I think that there were a few times, or especially early on, when I wasn't really in the swing of things. I think we didn't really have the same chemistry that we do now. That I think that it would have been nicer to see some things resolve first. From a character perspective, I really would have liked to explore Tyrant John, because the more he saw people die who weren't listening to him to go home, get back to safety. Why are you out here? We can handle this. You can't. The more he was becoming, has a strong conviction that these people, the only way for them to be safe is for them to be forced to be safe. And so going an Oathbreaker warlock would have been incredibly powerful and someone who may have actually taken that, not deal, but stepped into Strahd's place to enforce peace upon this world. And it would have been evil for the sake of good. And that's never a good, like having righteous motivation, but doing terrible things. I love that kind of nuance. I like how you can take someone who thinks that they're holy and someone who proclaims that they're holy, but is doing terrible things and essentially becoming the villain. I never really found a way to make that work in an organic and it would have messed up the party too. So that really
I was about to say, like, how would you would have reacted to that, like, as Casariel? Because I know when you were kind of exploring those options, a part of me was like mildly panicking, just like, how do you can't really make your character go quit? Because I feel like if she felt like she was hanging out with evil people, it would be like, well, like, I can't hang around you because you're being like Strahd, you know?
Well, and that's the thing, though. He would try to explain is that every time that there's people are in danger, they die because we don't tell them to get back to safety, or when we do, they don't listen. I'm going to save them. I'm going to save them all from themselves. That kind of, I think that it would have engendered a conversation, because I think from your perspective, you may have understood why he thinks that way, but you need to explain to him that it's not good. And so that probably would have never led to it, because I think our party got so close near the end that I think you guys would have been able to talk him out of it. So.
Well, Casariel did get onto him every time he started to go down that route, because he reminded her of Vladimir, and that she could not bear in her party, because she hates that guy, and so do I. So he reminded her a lot of that. So Casariel did fight back with him when he started saying a lot of that stuff. Yeah.
I love it. Okay. Also, looking at the time, we are at our usual half mark, and we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 7 or 8 questions left in Discord, and then we have the ones that are still waiting for us from the people in Twitch. Do we want to take a quick break right now, or do we want to keep going on?
I'm
Let's
okay with
grab a
keeping
break.
going on. Okay, yeah, we can go break.
I could. It's really, really warm in Ireland at the
Totally
moment. We're going
understand.
through a heat wave, and we're not used to this. I know the Florida people are like, this is child's play, but I am suffering.
Well,
so
we also have different tools.
I'm going to.
Like
I'm
70
with you,
degrees.
and I need my air
It's so
conditioning.
hot over there.
Cobain's?
It's so hot here.
All right.
All right. We'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Hi, everybody. We are back with some more questions and hopefully some more answers for you. Thank you so much for hopping into our Discord. As always, it's always fun to talk to you guys. And for those of you that don't know, if you haven't joined our Discord just yet, feel free to join our Discord, because during our breaks, whenever we are live, we do love to hop down to our channel to talk with everybody over there, which we did, and that was a lot of fun. So thank you for being there. We had got a couple more questions, so let's go down the list. I promise, for those of you that are live with us on Twitch, we will get to your questions in a bit. We're almost down the list of Discord, and then we'll hop over to the ones that have been asked in chat. Next up that I have is from Alu. Alu says, what was the most heartwarming moment between the members as a whole and as individuals? I think we basically answered that, but if you have any more remarks, feel free.
I have a different but I can wait until after you finish reading it.
Sure. In addition, what moments made Barry cry the most? Well, I think we all know that point. Slight hint, if you haven't seen it already, it was the last episode. It was the only moment when I actually broke down. So feel free to watch that. How long will their story live on in Barovia? Also, did Carla go down as a legend alongside Casariel and John? Now, that is a good question. We did give a bit of an epilogue on how the world of Barovia ended. But let's have a look at the three of you. Like, what happened to you guys as characters? Is there anything you would like to elaborate on?
I'll let Casariel start. Maybe.
Casariel's father was a paladin of the Morning Lord, Lathander. Her mother was a priestess of Saloon. So I would like to think, along with John, that they created a church of the sun and moon, which was kind of in Papa's epilogue. So yeah, I think that's what they did, and they stayed there and made sure that peace was in Barovia until Casariel died.
Fair enough.
I think
What about you,
ASMR
Carla?
live
What-
longer than humans too. So that probably was a sad.
For a lot longer than John, yes. What about you, Carla?
I have this vision of Carla going back home and taking months off of like adventuring and even being almost like a little bit scared to go back out into it. Well, she's just sort of like, she's like, I'm writing the book, that's why. But like secretly, it's like, if I go back out, am I not going to come back again for months? You know, I feel like she would have a lot of trauma to work through. But with the help of Savid, and basically being reunited back with like her friends in the Violet Gazette, I feel like she would eventually be like, okay, I have to get back out there. There's more to find. And I think she would just continue like adventuring in that way, maybe a little bit more cautious than she would have been just kind of diving into like ghost stories and like chasing every lead, but kind of actually looking more into like, there's something very weird going on in this area, or there's something like this going on. I feel like she'd get more like, less into just spirits and ghosts and ghouls and more into like, there's something deeply wrong with this area. Is there something we can figure out from there? And just continue writing stories until eventually, as a very old halfling, she definitely would have outlived John and Casariel. I reckon she would have overseen like John's kids, and if Casariel ever left anyone behind, like look after them as well, before eventually like retiring to the countryside to take care of like bees like Sherlock Holmes does or something. So yeah, that's Carla. I feel like there's so much potential for her to still be adventuring though, well into like, she's 103 now, so like well into like her 200s, maybe 300s. Yeah.
It's a good, that raises a very valid question. Now, as you guys have followed along with the story, we all know that John has had a kid, at least one that we know of. Who knows what else he gotten himself into over the course of his lengthy life. But that does raise a question, Casariel. Would you think there would be children in your future now that like peace has returned? Or would you say that Casariel is not the type?
I think it would be a very formidable man or woman that would catch Casariel and be able to put up with her shit. So, I don't know. Stay tuned. Maybe she'll meet them in the one shot.
No chance of romance between John and you?
I think they're more siblings than they are romantic partners.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Like
the second I asked it, I was like, I think that's the answer.
If someone asked that, they'd look at each other like, ew. I think
Ew.
both of them would like, yeah, it was, what? Anyway, yeah.
Funny. Yeah, perfect.
I had an answer for the sweetest moment. I think it was a heartwarming moment. There was a moment when I think after John blew up a raven, the next morning he woke up early with Casariel while she does her her morning ritual of both praying to Saloon but also praying to the Morning Lord and doing all there is there. And Casariel actually spent some time with John to show him the beauty of the sunrise and the peace and just feeling incredibly at peace in that moment. And I think that was a very heartwarming moment for both me and John. John felt more hope in this world. He already felt hopeful because he had his friend there, but he could see the beauty, even though this place is a dingy and misty and downtrodden place. There is beauty here, and for me too. It was a nice character moment. It was a nice moment for me and another player to really come closer together.
In Casariel's mother's journal, there is a whole entry on the first time that Farron, and Celisaria really spoke, and it was he invited her to watch the sunrise with him. So that was a cool moment because that was like her father and mother had done that, and then Casariel kind of like paid it forward to John. So that was like, I don't know if I even mentioned that at the time, but like for me in character, it was cool.
Fair enough.
Beautiful.
All right. Next one is from Jesu. He asked, it is obvious that you guys are living in different parts of the world. Really? How did you come together as a group? Good question. I don't think we've ever told you guys that. Shall I?
If you want to.
Sure. So
We all met in a tavern.
It all started in a very seedy tavern in the rough side of town on a Thursday afternoon. No, it's far off though. Way before the Gilded Flask, Daniel and I have met through Twitch. As a matter of fact, through Twitch Sings, which was, I have to say, a karaoke thing that Twitch did, and we ran into each other over there. It was a lot of fun. We sang together a couple of songs. It was funny, and from there we sort of we talked. We became friends. Ultimately, John was or Danny was came to the Netherlands. He visited me. He stayed at my house for a little while. We visited places in the Netherlands. Year after, I visited him and Marissa in Florida. So we just grew very close together over the course of time. In this course of time, at some point, Daniel and I were like, hey, so we really want to play D&D. And we played around with the idea a little bit back and forth. We talked with a couple of people like, hey, maybe with you. And we ultimately, we had this idea of what we wanted to do, but we really couldn't find the people that would fit with it. And I talked to Daniel. I said, you know what? Let's just be very old-fashioned. Let's just put an advert out on the forums of D&D Beyond. Because D&D Beyond is a very active forum. If you're ever looking for players or anything, that is a wonderful place to find people. And we just put out an ad over there, like, hey, this is our roughly our idea. This is what we want to do, and we're looking for people that would fit the bill. And we got a couple of replies on that. A couple of lovely replies.
Like 11 or 12. We actually had quite a few.
Yeah, it was pretty well replied to. But we ultimately decided, between all those posts, we decided on, I believe, 3 people that we'd like to talk to. 2 of which were Marissa and Anne. As a matter of fact, they were the first 2 that we talked to. And after we talked to the both of them, we looked at each other and were like, I think I already know, but we did invite the third person.
There was just so much chemistry.
Nice.
It's like we knew each other already. It was crazy. It's like
it felt really good.
We were born to be friends.
Yeah. So we did talk to the third one, and we didn't notice nearly as much chemistry as we noticed with Anne and Marissa. So our minds were pretty made up, and we got them together, and we talked, and we threw some ideas back and forth. And I agree with what Daniel just said. Like within it seemingly minutes, it felt like we knew each other for years on so many levels, not just D&D, but also the fact that we work very well together. We communicate very well. The way that we look at content creation, the eye to detail for like the intro and the music and whatnot that I can share with Marissa. But also the approach to social media, which just works, which is what Anne envisioned. Like, we need to do this. It just works. All of it combined, it felt like 4 pieces of a 4-piece puzzle that just instantly fell together. It was just wonderful.
Brief shout out to Barry.
I'll be right back. Sorry, my dog just got my dice bag. I'm be right back.
Don't worry.
Oh, the familiar.
The familiar is madness and incarnate, and much love.
I think we need to incorporate him into Odyssey of the Dragon Lord.
He's gotta be.
Yeah.
Oliver.
I'm already on top of that. That would have been very bad. It would have been this huge bag of dice everywhere. So
that's a no-no.
But brief shout out to Barry's Twitch channel, Papazillion. You mentioned Twitch things. A lot of his events are based on songs from Disney or something else that he's completely rewritten, and the karaoke is just it's perfect. The very first song I ever met him on was Be Our Guest. I thought he was French.
You did, actually. First off, you thought that was French, which I'll take it as a compliment now because I know you're my friend. But kidding. So that's how we met. Yeah. So we met through an ad. How very classical. But by now, we've been working together on a forum, right? Which there's nothing wrong with that, because I met my wife through the internet. So also not through a dating site. So we've been working together for about 2 years now, haven't we? Like,
Mhm.
that's I think
September.
yeah, in September it's 2 years. Like time really does fly, and it's been an amazing ride so far. So I'm really looking forward to do the next campaign, which is going to be a very lengthy campaign once again. But having the honor and privilege, which it really is, to do it together with the three of you is just amazing because you bring so much to the table, not just a role play, but all of it. Like it really feels like a wonderful group of friends, and I'm really looking forward to bring the next story to, well, to all of you, together with the three of you.
That'd be good.
Next one, question mark.
Yes.
Alrighty. Let's see. One more for Barry, so one more for me. Also from Jesu. Did you? Oh, that's a good one. Did you script a lot of your NPC dialogues, or did you improvise? For me, it was often impossible to say if you read out a written text because it was so perfectly phrased, or if you were just improvising. Let me start off with a heartfelt thank you on that, because that's a compliment, and I'll take it as such. Was it scripted? Not necessarily. There's a lot of points where let me split the two. When I'm describing what an area looks like, usually I do take points from the way it's described in the story. If it was a homebrew part, if there was any information given, I'd like to honor that, right? So I'll fit that into my description. But it's more of a pointer list rather than reading out like an entire text, because I don't like to read that up. Like I just like to work with some pointers. As for the NPC dialogue, the only one that I scripted out a little bit was the dinner with Strahd. And the reason I did that is because I want to bring, like, the dinner with Strahd is the moment that Strahd basically shows, I know you guys. Right? It's the moment where he basically wants to like, you know, embellish how much he knows about the characters. So I had to take things from their backstories, from the things that they've done so far, some notes that I've been taking. I have to bring that all together. That was definitely partially scripted because I had to, right? I had to work with whatever he knew. Outside of that, most of the character interactions that they've had, so the whole talk with Vladimir, the whole end story with Strahd, most of the interactions with Strahd really were all just improvised on the fly, because you can't prepare with these three. And I mean that in the most sincere way. You guys roleplay so well that I can't prepare for that. You guys come with takes on a situation that if I would have to write that out, I might as well start writing a book. So very early on, I decided I'm not going to. I'll have some pointers that I want to cover whenever I'm talking as an NPC, and that's it. I'll see whatever it brings. So if that came across as well prepared, then I'll take that as a compliment. Thank you. But into like a good question also to relate to the three of you. Like, did it ever come across as scripted, or did you guys feel like it did work well with whatever you brought?
Couldn't script it. You just couldn't. There's just shit that like all of us would say in the moment where it's just like you can't really plan for everything. And like the stuff that it's less like even the stuff where like you were saying like you were thinking about like our backstory and stuff like that for Strahd and all that kind of stuff, like there's only so much you can do in terms of that, because we could interrupt him while he's talking to us, or we could throw a curveball in there or anything like that. So I feel like even the best attempts like to DM it with a script, you can't really.
No,
For the
you can never account for everything. That's just impossible.
Yeah, and I think
right.
Scripting often to me feels like it comes with an almost rigidity that you like you guys both talked about. But for me, whenever I read something that's scripted, I often feel a lot more uncertain, because if I miss a single word, or if I pronounce something oddly because I'm trying to just read, it becomes stilted, not organic. If I just think this is my motivation, this is the knowledge base that this person has, how would they react, and then go from there, then sometimes you mess up, sometimes you don't.
Yeah. All right. Next up is also from Jesu. Why did you stop the interactive tome of Strahd after the wedding? My players love it, and I am even working on the new chapter, including Gender Sunstar, reflecting the events from the book Vampire of the Mists. Cool. Good implementation there, by the way. I hadn't thought of that angle. So why did we stop the interactive tome after the wedding? I'm going to be honest with that. The Book of Strahd, the interactive tome of Strahd, is 12 chapters in total. So that's a lot of content that's being dropped into the story, because the interactive tome of Strahd, in essence, is a homebrew item. The way we ran it. If you play The Curse of Strahd as is, it is just a PDF, or whatever format you would pick, that you can hand to your players when they find his diary, right? Because it's Strahd's diary. When you find it, you can give the players a whole bunch of text and they can just start reading it. And like after a couple of sessions, they've probably gone through it and they can make up their minds about whatever they read in there. To me, that is kind of boring because you don't want to give your players homework. I instead decided to go with a very popular homebrew module, which was the interactive Tome of Strahd, which basically allowed you to play every chapter of that book as a mini, well, almost like a mini one-shot within the campaign. So whenever they would read a chapter, they would be pulled in, they would be sort of part of the story, they would learn a little bit more about that. That would land so much more than just reading a PDF. However, there was a very big downside to that. The build-up towards Chapter 6, which is where Strahd finally succumbs and becomes the evil lord that he is, that build-up is awesome. There's a lot of information in there. The players really learn a lot about him. But then after Chapter 6, so Chapter 7 through 12, do explain a lot of the things that happen in Barovia. But the things that are being explained over there are way more background information, if that. And the way we were playing Curse of Strahd, we had a meeting, and I told them, like, we can go through those 7 chapters, or 6 chapters as well. But know that with the other things that you guys are doing, that would feel a lot more... well, boring, and it's not a fair word to use there, but it is less important to the story as the first 6 chapters are. So we made a decision, like, if we have a lull in the moment, in the action, we can stick it in. We can just use chapter 7, 8, 9, etc. If we don't, and we feel like we're still on the path of whatever the characters need to do, we can skip them. They're not that important to the story. And ultimately, because of all the things that happen to the characters, I don't think we really had a moment where we considered, like, hey, let's pull up a chapter. So for the 3 of you, what those chapters covered is the fact that Strahd was part of the reason why the druids and the tree in Yesterhill were so effed up. It was a retribution to Leo Delisnia, who attacked Strahd, right, during the wedding, and he basically got his revenge on him. It's chapters like that. So they're sort of, they do fill in the gaps, but they're less important to the story.
I think that's a really fair point as well, because there's like a question after this as well. It's like, it kind of touches on, again, missing stuff. We are kind of like trying to focus on the good, the best of the best bits, because we are like doing a production, which I imagine for you guys, it's like you don't even remember that because, you know, you're just enjoying watching it. But like we in our heads are like, okay, pacing, timing, what's fun, are people going to enjoy, that sort of stuff. And I think the like Tome of Strahd perfectly played into where we were, and then after that it would have like backtracked from what you were saying. So like that's where the decision came. Not that it's like bad or boring or anything like that. It's just like it's a production on one level. So yeah,
we do want to have like a good flow of story. Yeah. All right. Excuse me. The next one, coming from Aluwu, to everyone, what was your favorite opponent to fight?
Ooh.
John, you are muted.
Thank you. I was gonna say, I would say let's try to keep it to opponents within the story, just because there's so many other ones that we can talk about. I have one that I want to talk about for a one shot that I'm planning, but I'm gonna try to keep mine to this story.
Yep.
But let me think about that.
Sure. What about you, Casario?
Either Daskaloo or the Spider Queen, I would say. They were challenging, really
you
challenging.
You liked the Spider Queen, really?
I mean, 'cause I didn't like it for Cassariel because she was stuck the entire time, but I liked it for the group because it posed a big challenge. I thought that was fun. I like a challenge as a player, but I also like there to be like for the DM to allow for like these great like badass character moments. And I think that's like a talent as a DM, right? Like the mix between like making it hard enough where it's like, okay, you get that like, oh, what are we gonna do? We might not make it. And then also like, fuck yeah, fireball or whatever, you know. So I thought those
Which
two were
you
cool.
did, right?
Carla did.
Fuck yeah, fireball. My favorite.
Yeah.
It's my favorite spell. It ruins the whole. It's literally like, if you have a problem, setting it on fire causes a different problem, but more manageable. The fire, and
It's a good way to put
I
it in
think
D&D terms, yeah.
for me, I really liked the hags the first time we fought them because we lost, and that was really great to have as a player because I remember walking out of the session feeling so frustrated, but like it put like not to use RuPaul's Drag Race terms, but like it put a fire under my ass of like I need to get good enough to take those bastards down. Because she like just eviscerated half of our spells. She turned John into a fucking mouse. Like there was nothing we could do at the level we were at. So it made the actual defeat later on a lot more like, oh, I just felt good because it's like fuck you. I lost the first time, but not the second. Yeah. So that's always really memorable for me.
Fair enough. Thought of anything yet, John?
Yeah, mine is actually going to be another sort of like way that D&D makes me think differently as a person, because I'm normally if I play a survival game, I will grab everything, I will take everything, I will dismantle and destroy to get components and save. D&D makes me feel like I don't need to collect and get everything. And the very first boss that we had was, I think, a shambling mound in the basement of the death house. That scared the crap out of me. I got down to one health.
You almost... yeah.
That was the end of John's campaign if I had been hit a single point harder. I know out meta game that a shambling mass will kill you if it brings you to 0 health with its engulf.
It assimilates you.
I had 1 health in that fight. So John, that was the first moment where I was like, okay, we can't overcome this. Run. And it became a run situation. I don't do that in most video games. I want to overcome. I want to challenge, you know?
I remember when that fight was over and like the stream was over, you DM'd me and you were like, you let me off easy, right? Because you were like, with 1 health, that is impossible. And I was like, no, the dice actually let you live. It was 1 health because I saw it happening and I was like, it's over. And I made the calculation at 1 health. But looking at my dice, I was like, this is over. All the prep that we put into your character, it's freaking over.
So I think that
1 health.
I kind of want to do it too, because the other one was the ghasts in the basement of the death house, because that was the first moment where I think Carla went down and it's like the entire world, all sound dropped away, and it's like, okay, fuck everything else, I'm not fighting anymore, I'm going to save my friend. And that is a big transition from, I get to fight things and kill things, and we all get to fight things and kill things. Someone's dying. So
In a pit.
yeah,
Dead.
that was a really big moment as a player for me. That was a formative moment. So that was cool.
I think for me, God, there was a lot of fighting moments that I really enjoyed. I really liked you guys' interaction with the rock on the bridge when you guys were going to the Amber
Dwayne
Temple.
Johnson?
That was freaking scary. No, the big bird. Because that was scary. Yeah, the bird was trying to grab you to go for his nest, and you guys defied it. It was really well done. So that was really, really fun. And of course, the fight with Dr. Daskalu, because I had that so prepped, like, that was 2 AT prepared. And I love the fact that one part really went as I hoped, which is where, as a necromancer, he was scary and evil, but you guys got him down, and you were like, we're done. And you were standing near his corpse, and all of a sudden he started growing and growing into this monstrosity, and he changed into not a sorcerer but a barbarian, right? And he rampaged the room and you guys in it, and you still managed to get him down. It was such a cool fight.
Yeah, that was a good one. Like that was one
All right.
where I think Carla put a blade trap, something of daggers.
Oh yeah, for the zombies
For the zombie-
trying to
in front
come
of zombies.
through. So
And
it's
it
just
was
The cloud of daggers.
so clutch.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they just kept shambling into it and gone. It was like, oh my god, you just wiped out half of his forces with a single level, first level spell. Oh my god.
And smart
I think
because
it's like a third level.
Okay.
Daskalo on its own is dangerous, but with him, it's action economy. It's the fact that there's a whole bunch of zombies that come after you as well, and you were like, but they're not.
You
All
put
of
them
a
in a
sudden-
kill chamber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That room is the blender.
Alrighty, next one from Victionator. Aren't you kind of sad that the players ran straight to Strahd at the catacombs? To be honest, no, I'm not, because once the Heart of Sorrow was broken, which was the phylactery, right? That Strahd basically tied Strahd to the mortal world. He invited them to face me, and the players decided to do so. They ran down, they ran to him, and they faced down. The catacombs are great, and all of Ravenloft is great. Beautiful maps, and there's so much to discover over there, which we I think through our campaign, I think we saw maybe a quarter of Ravenloft, if that. There's so much more to it. But once your mind is set to, this is it. This is the end. We're going to down him. This is over. You're not going to walk through the catacombs and be like, oh, what's this? Oh, what's that? You go to your path. So it fit the story, and I think the way they did was wonderful.
For the one shot.
What?
We'll save it for the one shot.
Maybe Castle Ravenloft could definitely be part of the one-shot. Yeah, because it is a beautiful map, and I think a couple of parts from that we can definitely use as a one-shot. Absolutely. So I will consider that. That's as a matter of fact, I'm going to note that down.
Well, it wouldn't be Castle Ravenloft, right? It would be like Rahadin's castle or Daskalu's castle or whatever.
Of course. We'll flavor it, but I'm definitely going to be able to pull from Ravenloft.
That could be cool. That Rahadin has a lot of psychological abilities and stuff like that. So maybe he actually entraps the three characters in this phantom castle, so to speak, and it's Ravenloft.
That would be cool. All right. That concludes all the questions that we have on Discord. So let's go ahead and have a look at the ones that have been asked through chat.
I think we had one more under Victionaires. It was Aluwu, but it was a lot of questions all in one.
Oh,
A
did
lot of
I
it was
skip that? Hang on.
favorite sad moments. I think the only sort of different question within there was, what's the character's favorite foods?
Yeah, I think of all of them, what's the party's favorite foods is probably the best question to answer.
Oh, yeah.
Because the rest
that's
of
a
it
good
we've
point.
kind of already answered with other things.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. So the favorite foods, and no pies.
Carla likes tea and biscuits. She likes tea and biscuits.
Bacon quiche. It's not a pie. You eat it in the morning.
That's a great question. Xariel's really not into sitting down to eat. I would say like a sandwich because you can eat it on the run, or something light so you can still train after you eat. I don't know, maybe some fruit.
Anything's
know,
to
she's
go
pretty
if you have
boring.
enough willpower.
Xariel's a gym bro.
Yeah, protein shake.
She's got a bunch of protein bars. Her rations are just protein bars.
She eats them all in one bite and she gets out there again.
Exactly as many calories you need.
As for me, of course, it would be the succulent neck of a virgin maiden in my domain.
What defines a maiden?
Because what
I have
else,
been
of
told
course?
I'm a pretty girl. Not
I hate to
offering
break
that.
it to you, John. But you have a kid, so you're not a maiden anymore.
Virgin
Yeah.
maiden, no.
You're not a virgin maiden anymore. That's off the table. I'm sorry.
This is discrimination.
You want to get
I'm
it.
just saying, if anyone was gonna live, if this was a horror movie, it would have been Xariel because she was the only one that was innocent.
Final girl,
Let it
yeah.
be known now that the both of you two, during our campaign, Carla more than once probably, got busy, and Xariel's a sweet little angel baby that never did. Thank you.
Hilarious.
It's true. John got a very interesting bath, and then he actually made a kid with the mountain people.
His bath was
and
very
Carla got
clean.
railed by the Vistani, so you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Centauri is my least favorite character.
I can imagine.
I have some questions here. Questions from peeps in the stream. If you want me
Let's
to
hear it.
start reading them out. All
Please.
right. First one is from this is from Merrick of Asgard. From a mechanical standpoint, if you played Curse of Strahd again, what class would you go to? What class would you want to go through it with? And for Papa, if you were a player, what class would you prefer? I'll say Casario, then Carla, then Papa, then me.
Sure.
Putting yourself in the ideal position, yeah.
Gosh, I don't know, because I mean, I wouldn't change a thing. But if I as Marissa was gonna if we all decided to play again, maybe sorcerer. I don't know. I'm really into casters.
Same.
I don't know. It's a tough one. I'd really have to think about that. That's a tough one.
I would play like a druid, and I'd play it into like maybe like the worship of one of the Fane, sort of like domain, sort of either water or like the animals or something like that, and really play into that and try to like squeeze what I can out of like the mountains, and like if it was more animal based as well, like the werewolves I think would play like a big part into that. I'd play maybe a druid and go around that route and kind of maybe really pay attention to the wine and the Mardikovs and all that sort of stuff.
That would be a cool angle, like to play all characters that were actually from Barovia. That'd be cool.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of like being brought in from outside.
Papa.
I have an idea, but I'm going to need one of you guys with that. I have this character idea that I would love to play through Barovia, to be honest. I love the Artificer class, but I also love the Warforged race, and I see a very fun connection there. I would love to be able to connect with another player, where one of the players would play an Artificer, who basically at some point created this funky robot, and it came alive, which would be me as a Warforged. That would be a very fun connection. I don't care really about the class I would play then. Probably a fighter or something, because when I think of a robot, a Warforged could play anything, right? A Warforged could be a sorcerer, but that kind of feels weird, so I'd probably go for like a fighter or something, because fighters are cool. But then like with a very clean, like, connection to someone playing an Artificer, where for some reason he made him so I resent them, but at the same time I love them. I don't know. Something like that. So
that fits totally. I want to make an Artificer and call him Han Velsing.
There we go.
Well, Han Velsing. He's a vampire hunter, and he has a bunch of gadgets given to him by the church that he has to deal with. So, I mean, just like I want to be. He's gonna look exactly like Hugh Jackman. No funny business. I'm not hiding anything. I'm going straight for the film.
Yeah, so basically the guy from the film. The guy from Van Helsing.
He's got he's got a repeater crossbow. Oh my god. He's got a repeater crossbow. He's got holy water grenades. He's got everything. Oh man. Anyway, I think that was good. Anyone else have anything from that?
No, like that I would love to play. And then again, like, as a DM, whenever I do get to play a character, I'm already thrilled for the fact that I'm a player. I don't really care that much about what I get to play. I can work with anything.
Favorite D&D character that you would love to play? This is by Mechafox VT. We'll do the same order, I say.
As in race, class, or just character?
That's a good question. I think I asked that when he put that in there, and he said yes when I said this or that. He's like yes. So
yeah, so the character that I would love to play, I'm making for our next campaign, so stay tuned for that. And my favorite character that I have ever played is definitely the Twilight Cleric, so definitely Casario. She's just badass. They can do anything. She didn't play that role, but could have been a better tank than John.
She could have, 100%. She's
you
the
can
best.
you can be
She can be a
support,
damage
you can
dealer.
be-
She can be a healer. She can be support. She can be, she can be. Her perception
Super
was so
strong.
high. She could actually probably find a lot of things. She could have been a detective. So,
Yeah.
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 Twilight clerics were badass. So, Carla?
So like just like the racing class or like a character you've already played.
Do you have a character that you really want to play someday, but you haven't just found a campaign that it fits, but you want to someday? That's kind of what I'm
this one's complete crackpot. This one is complete crackpot. Just something I thought about and made me giggle. I would love to play a bard who loses like a special thing about their voice. And they were like a really famous singer. They lose something really special about their voice that made them so famous because they were like a little bit weird sounding. And like it's stolen by like a rival and like it's magic and it's all like drama conflama. Like they were famous and now they have to like hide their shame and everything and change everything they look like because they're like, I can't sing like I used to. I can't perform. And slowly throughout the campaign, you realize that it's basically you're basically playing Hatsune Miku because she's not like a vocal. Just like something where it's like very referential to like pop culture. I love stuff like that. I think that's so fun, but it's completely crackpot. Mostly because like I really build my characters based on like a campaign as opposed to like and like the story as opposed to like I think that class or race is cool. It's like I know what they are. I think this would thematically work and this works with the party. So yeah.
Barry.
Gosh, I have 101 ideas on characters that I would love to play, but the one that I always come back to, it's my very first character that I played is a rogue. I don't know why rogues attract me so much, but I love playing a rogue. And to me, whenever you make a character, what is most defining about a character to me is the flaws. The flaws make up the majority of your roleplay if done correctly, right? Because they influence it so much, right? And a flaw shouldn't be like, well, I'm clumsy. No, it should be something detrimental to your character because it's funny. And for a rogue, that usually is something along the lines of kleptomania, which is cool for a rogue if you don't like fuck over your teammates. It's fun to be slightly kleptomaniac or something along those lines. So probably I'll weave something in like that. What I'd really like to play though is a rogue changeling, because imagine the possibilities. How cool would it be that you can actually just change into the guard that is standing over there? You just press the life out of him or just stab him in the neck. You hide him in a corner and then you jump across the wall and be like, "Hey, how's it going?" And you just stand guard over there for a second. And your other party comes over and they're like, "Oh yeah, they're invited. Please come in." And you open the door and let them in. How cool is that, right? I'd love to play something like that.
What's all this talk about a disguise kit? What's the disguise kit?
It's just Disguise Kit Plus. It's like it actually because you look the part.
That's what I mean. It's like that's the character is like you have to use a disguise kit. That's great. I love it.
What about you, John?
So I got this guy named Corey Flinziker. Unfortunately, after about 3 or 4 months perfecting his perfect qualities, he's an artificer. He's a little I was gonna make him, he's basically a dwarf, but he's actually got qualities of more animalistic kind of qualities. Unfortunately, after about 3 months, I found out that he's basically an amalgamation of Ratchet from Ratchet and Clank and Rocket Raccoon. So I still want to fit him into a campaign someday, but I really think that he's gonna flourish. And that's one of the things I want to do is have a couple of words just like he says them funny. And hey, why not? But one day. So
Love it.
Next one. This is a very actually no, this is another one. Favorite moment during the Strahd campaign? Question for everybody. And I think we've answered this one
We did
a few times. So the next one's very, very, very important. Did Pumpkin get his cheese?
I think I'm the only one that can answer that, right?
No.
This is detrimental. This was life or
No,
death.
wait. Wait.
Yes.
Did Kasariel not have the cheese?
Only rations. Only your
You
protein
had
bars.
rashes with you.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize how important this was. I'm sorry.
So, let's fix that right now. Never let a good opportunity to roll a die go to waste. I want all of you to roll me a d20. I will do as well, and we'll take the average.
This is the most important roll we will ever do.
No.
I'll get the Grania dice for it.
I'm so sorry, everybody.
You get a natural one.
Nope. Got a 5.
All right,
Grania
so that's a
dice.
5.
She never
So I have a-
misses. 20.
Oh,
Grania dice never fail.
She
20?
never fucking
All right.
fails.
What did you get, Casario?
okay. Because Casariel has the ring of animal friendship, do I get to roll with advantage?
He's just
Can make a case. I can continue to make a case for this if you would like. This is for my girl.
I made up my mind already, but make your
Okay.
case.
Okay, so Casariel is the one that spoke to Pumpkin, right? So she has a bond with Pumpkin, and I feel like Casariel, because she stayed in Barovia, would make sure Pumpkin got that cheese. As a matter of fact, I think Pumpkin is Casariel's like pet. Like I think she went back and saved Pumpkin and Pumpkin's whole family. I could keep going. I could just keep riffing. How long do I need to go? I rolled an 8.
I kind of want this to keep going for like a solid 5 minutes, but sure, you'll have advantage. Go ahead.
I rolled another 8. No.
Your ring
Tell
of
me some more
animal
about your
friendship. Your ring of animal
sorry,
friendship
Joel.
didn't include rats, apparently, or mice.
Shit. God. No. I'm sorry, Joel.
What is your animal handling bonus?
What is my animal handling bonus? Wait
Yeah,
a
have a look at
minute.
your
boy.
character sheet.
Let me. Okay.
Yeah.
I need to read this ring and what it does.
It's wisdom, and if you're proficient in it.
Oh, it's wisdom. Okay. Wisdom. That's good. That's a good sign. Okay, it's a +5. Animal
All
handling.
right, so that would bring you to a 13.
13. Yes.
All right.
Plus, let's check out this ring. This is very important. I think unless you're in our Discord, you do not understand how important this is or why we care about this so much. Just one sec. Okay, I can speak with animals. I can cast animal friendship also with this ring. So don't forget about that, eh?
Would Casario stock anything besides protein powder and like fruit in her house?
Look, to be fair,
she's
John
perfect.
makes quiches. John makes quiches, so he probably has some cheese that she acquired for this very important, mission.
I
Right.
think that's
John, you had enough
So listen.
cheese. You don't need that.
All 4 of us have rolled a d20. I have tallied them up, and I took the average. And I decided, I think fairly, that if you would roll above a 12
Why are your eyes
total,
red?
because I've been using my calculator, and one of my buttons is...
I thought you were. I thought this was like an evil moment. It's like if you rolled an 11. Okay.
But if you roll below a 12...
oh
then
boy,
ultimately-
something bad.
Pumpkin.
Well, actually, like the divide by button on my numpad is to switch my color of my eyes. So well spotted. You would have to roll above a 12, the 4 of us total, and Pumpkin would have gotten its cheese. And I've added the 4 of us together and divided it by 4. And I will have to say that in total, you have
Drum roll.
hit. You would have to hit above a 12. You hit 12.25, which is above a 12. He got the cheese.
Let's
Thank
go.
goodness.
Let's go.
Yikes, that would have been a one shot.
Detrimental.
Demanded one shot. Go back and save Pumpkin.
Pumpkin's cheese.
That mouse did not get that cheese.
Why are my
It would have
quiches
just
so
been reincarnated
not
as Strahd.
creamy? I don't have any cheese for my quiches, Casario. This is so sad.
Fate of the life is on the talons of that mouse.
Okay. All right. That was
All right.
very,
Next
very
one.
important. I love it. Okay. So this was actually from me.
Yes.
What was up with several characters. One of them was Ludmila, which I think you answered before. So that was
I did, yes.
So did we miss anything? So to speak. The other one was the the shoemaker, which you already talked about.
I will say one thing, by the way, about Ludmilla. She had a guy chained up in her
attic
prison, right?
Found it.
She was still, like, he was the evil werewolf, the one that we were looking to coup anyway.
I figured you guys remember that, but yeah, that would have been another hook into the werewolves. If you would have freed him, that would have helped you towards that story, but in a different way, because he was evil as F. So
So we healed him a bit, and he immediately started ranting about how he's going to kill everybody. And we were like, oh, okay, good. That have fun. Good luck.
How about you just stay there? Yeah.
Hey, good luck with that. Guy in the statue. What was the deal with the crazy guy in the statue with all the different languages of all the different? What?
That was such a fun bit of story. This is core Curse of Strahd. This is not a homebrew or whatever. This is just core Curse of Strahd. When I read this, I was like, that's so much fun. How well thought of. So the Amber Temple, right? Because you're talking about the guy in the Amber Temple statue, right?
Yeah.
So the Amber Temple itself is basically a prison. It's called the Amber Temple, but in essence, it is a prison / a bank. That's what it was built for. First off, it was built with amber to contain the souls of the old gods that they captured, making it a prison. Secondly, it was used as a bank to store a lot of valuables from important parties around the world of Barovia. That being said, when the Amber Temple basically succumbed to Strahd, because that's in essence what happened, it fell to disrepair, but it still contained a lot of evil ancient magic. But magic like that attracts certain creatures. Now, I don't know if you guys ever heard of an Arcana Loth, but an Arcana Loth is a special breed of fox-like humanoid, and they feed on magical power. They are addicted to magic, quite literally. So whenever there is magic, and there's magic long enough in a place, an Arcana Loth will show up. Now, an Arcana Loth basically looks like a fox on two legs, and they are very well versed in magic because, well, if you're addicted to it, you might as well learn a thing or two about it. Arcana Loths are like ninth level spellcasters, and they are masterminds at trying to deceive people. That's what they do. They aren't the best combatants. They have their magic, but they're not the best combatants. They try their best to deceive and basically just take you for a ride. And that's exactly what happened at the Ember Temple. This old man living in the statue wasn't an old man. This was a disguise used by this Arcana Loth to try and trick you guys into believing that he is part of the original crew that, safeguarded the temple. And if you wouldn't fall for that he would be anything else but what he truly is. Should you guys have engaged in combat with him, he would have fought you guys. You probably would have killed him quite easily because he has little to no armor and not that big a health pool. But he has some dangerous magic that he would initially use to just try to trick you guys. But for example, he knows Finger of Death. So he's dangerous.
I've had that happen to me multiple times.
I was going to say. So the way you handled him was marvelous. And again, like big shout out to that moment when he came out of the statue and it was John's turn and he was like, watch out. There's something dangerous in the statue. That was
careful,
freaking funny.
Statue. Sorry.
And there's a clip of that, right? And it was so hilarious. But that's what was up with that. So he wasn't part of the temple at all. He just snuck in, feeding on the magic. And whenever there's danger or an adventuring party coming into the temple, he would assume the form that he did, try and trick you into everything's fine, just leave me alone.
That makes sense because he kept asking us, hey, did you find anything? Hey, did you find anything? What did you find?
Because he wants to know what you guys found because he wants it. Yes.
Yeah. Interesting. And I remember, we walked in front of us like, hey, didn't find anything. Going over here. See ya. That was...
And he was like, fine, just like, because you'll die at some point probably, and you could just steal your magic items.
And then on that note, another question we had, or I had, and I hope everyone had, were there any other, like, of the Amber Temple demons that you were kind of hoping that we had more interaction with? And maybe even to the extent of actually making deals with?
Hoping for, not necessarily, because I wanted to prevent the that I was going to be partial to one room or another. I really had to pull myself away from that because, yeah, there's a couple of really cool demons down there. So I had to pull myself away from that. So did I have a preference? Not really, but there were a couple that were really cool. Ultimately, I was glad that you didn't interact with them because there is no such thing as a good deal down there.
Okay.
There were
What was
one or
that
two where...
Death one. The
Which
death one that Carla kept going back to. What was that one?
Oh, God. I'll have to quickly go through all of them. Give me 1 second. There was, by the way, there was one which was called the nine-legged spider. That was really something for Casario.
She was the only one that looked at it as well, wasn't she?
So the great thing was, if you would have even considered accepting his dark gift, you would have let me see, you would have gotten the ability to cast web and spider climb as an action, and you would regain that on the short rest. But as a payment, physically you would change that small spiders would live in your hair and clothes, and your gear would always be infested with baby spiders. And mentally, you would believe that everyone is trying to leave you.
She's
and
got
you
it
would do
off.
anything to keep them close by.
Got the headphones off.
Oh god, no, that got me too. Like, oh,
Gross.
We're done.
That was, yeah. That was nasty.
Yeah,
Nobody asked about
so
Spider Papa. Anne asked about a different one. Thank you.
Yeah, the death one, right?
Appreciate that though.
yeah.
Corpse star.
So
The reason why I
yeah,
noped out of that room is because I didn't want to know that.
yeah,
That's fair.
Hey,
Which
so
is fair because
I have a question about this
It's
death
icky.
one. Yeah, that's cool. What about the spider one? Whoa.
Yeah.
See Spider-Man
I'm just
in
running through
theaters?
them like sorry.
I know. It's great.
Let me see. It wasn't Yogg the Invincible, no.
Well,
It was
if you
like-
want,
Zed. It was like had a Zed name, and it was the Corpse Star.
Yeah, I remember. There was also there was one called Tenebrous, which you saw that there was one other gemstone that was destroyed.
Shattered,
Do you
yeah.
remember? Because there was one.
with
There
the
was
three
one that was
creatures of the
destroyed
eyes.
because of. That was next to it.
Yeah, on it.
Yeah, but there was another one which was destroyed. That one actually allows you to become a lich. And the trick was that it feels like the wizard living upstairs that transformed into a lich would have used that. He didn't. It was Strahd who came back and who used that
I was
power.
making multiple deals. What a bastard.
Yeah, like, he is. No.
There was a handout in game because we got a book that had. Well, Casario got a book. I found one, and Carla was like, "I'll take that."
Yeah.
I was gonna say, if you wanna take a moment to look through, we have another question that we could probably answer while we do that.
Go right ahead.
Cool beans. This is the last question in our list here. It is, if you could have changed any one of your actions throughout the campaign, good or bad, what would it be? And we can go Casario, Carla, John again.
Oh, found it, by the way, but go on.
Go ahead, Papa.
Yeah.
Okay.
we Finish this question out.
So the Corpse Star one was called Zudun, and he was also just trying to make a bargain with you, of course. If you would have taken that, you would have gotten the option to cast Resurrection once per long rest without needing to use any components. So this is Resurrection, not, that's a big thing. You would also be able to cast Death Ward on yourself once every long rest.
One thing I
However-
will say. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
About playing a cleric in the Curse of Strahd is that a lot of the boons that you get, you already have as a cleric. So that was one thing that was kind of like, you get the ability to cast this, and it's like, oh, okay, I can already cast that. Does anybody else want this thing? Which is
Thanks.
cool, but also at the same time, it's like, oh, I want an item. Okay.
So those are big, right? Like, being able to cast Resurrection and Death Ward for free, basically, you don't need components. That is big if you could do that once per long rest. However, what you would have to pay for that You would take on a sort of corpse-like appearance, and you would easily be mistaken for being undead. And with each resurrection you perform, you would become more corpse-like. Mentally, you would be speaking of and thinking of death all the time. It's all you talk about. So it's a big change, but
That's
not
big, yeah.
I can just
but
imagine.
not impossible.
Have you ever died? No. Would you like to? Just that just creepy conversation. Because I can bring you back if you'd like to try it. Just
Just die. I'll bring you back. That's okay. Don't worry.
easy. I just wave a hand.
Maybe you'll become a spirit. That'll be fun. Yeah, that sort of thing. It would have fit, but it would have been not. I don't think that would have been worth it. Where like the eye one, very tempting to keep. Really
Yeah, 'cause
scary in
it's
the
strong.
moment because I was thinking of my vocal component and the fact that like at that point I was doing a lot of the talking to people, and I was like I can't trust fucking John and Kazariel to do this gosh darn. And I feel like by the end John would have been able to get through it, but like I was like oh fuck. So yeah, it's glad I got rid of it, but yeah.
We could have gotten some system where she basically messages John and says, "Say this," and he's just okay.
Oh boy, that would have been a real scary game of telephone.
Yep.
But imagine, like, there's gods out there where if you would have taken their boon, which would have given you, like, for example, the option to call forth a hellhound every short rest, which is great.
up still.
But the change would be that your eyes would constantly be on fire, like visually, and mentally you will only be able to speak in Infernal and not any other language.
So here's the thing about all of these. I feel like this is for people in Barovia because if you're from outside where you can like actually talk to gods and stuff, you can get these powers without having to be a corpse person.
Not a regular person. Yeah.
You know, like
I
yeah,
imagine-
just
Just the
worship.
unfortunable early.
I
It
imagine
might
a
end
regular-
up being something where you want it, but yeah.
Yeah.
A regular person
Or
who's
if
like
you're
lower
not
than
a
level
caster. Yeah, if you're not a caster, yeah, or a divine person, yeah.
100%.
Now,
Or
there
if
was
you're from
one-
Barovia.
There was one where I was like, 'cause that's the thing. They have a mental and a physical change, all of them. And some of them would fit in your roleplay style, that you would be able to handle that. For one, there is one which would say mentally you would change in such a way that you would envy those that are beautiful, and you would treat them with spite and malice. You can roleplay with that. It's going to be tricky, but you're going to be able to roleplay with that. But on the flip side, physically, your skin would break out in blisters and boils. Pus and blood would run from each burst, blister, and boil. Good luck roleplaying that. Like, that's terrible.
They fit right in with the hags.
They're all terrible.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and that's all of these bargains have that. It's like, oh, you read one of the two of them, you're like, oh, that's not that terrible. And then you read the other one, it's like, oh, that is terrible. So ultimately, the best thing you could have done is what you did. You took one that wasn't too detrimental and you skipped over the rest. That was the best thing you could do.
Yeah, and then that one got
She
cured
was
pretty quick.
bestowed with one. Remember?
Yeah, you didn't choose. You were bestowed with one.
John got really tempted, but luckily the roll of the dice with I think the advantage of his friends got him out of it. But
as a matter of fact, the one that tempted you, because I remember which one that was. Do you want to know what you would have gotten if you would have succumbed to that?
yeah, I think I do. It was I would have essentially wanted to force my way into a position of leadership and take on the leadership role of anything that we're doing. If someone's doing something, he's like, no, hey, listen to me. Stuff like that.
So
right?
this would have been Xantras, the Kingmaker, who was indeed preying on that part of you, which was why it was putting its hooks into you. As a gift, you would have gotten the option to cast Gaius as an action, which is a very strong spell, and you could do that once every long rest. Gaius is the ultimate convincing spell, right? If it hits, you can quite literally ask someone to stop breathing, and if they don't do that, they get hit with like a massive amount of psychic damage. It's an impossibly powerful control spell. You would also be able to cast Command on an action, which would recharge every short rest. What do you have to deliver in return? Is mentally, you would become arrogant, stubborn, and demanding to be the leader. So you would become impossible to work with in a group setting. Physically,
He's already
you
got
would
the seventh
march.
heart.
Kind of. But
Sorry,
physically,
I'll do
you would march or walk with stride. Your face grows stern, and you no longer smile. Your eyes turn gold in color. You become distant, and that is the one thing that kept you grounded, John. I think if you would have given that up, you would break.
Listen, I think Casariel, I think this Church of Moon and Sun is going to be a real big deal because all of this stuff, hi, join the Church of Saloon. You too can have all of these things and you don't even have to be ugly or dead or pussy or stern.
At no extra cost.
Have a third
Give us a
eye.
call now.
I was going to say, it's good that there's no
You can
television in
cast Gaius,
Barovia.
Command. Death Ward.
Except these stones.
Televangelista.
Except these stones.
Resurrection.
Good for one free sending.
I'm gonna fit that
Man,
all
we're gonna
into
kill
a
it.
one shot.
I love it.
Yep.
It's like, oh my god, I'm picturing John and Casariel like, what is that? Tammy Faye Baker and who's the other guy?
Oh my god, yeah. Fucking the
Like the infomercial?
televangelist. Yeah.
We have a huge like mega church. Man, it's gonna be popular.
That's funny.
You gotta dig a little
Yeah.
deeper. Give to what you. Out there with
all
a
you
tambourine.
gold.
Oh god. So the last one was if you could change any one of your actions, good or bad, what would it be?
Good question.
Well, I would have saved Arena at the end. I would have done. I
That's
would
a
have
big
made
one.
an effort to actually go up and do that, especially because I had the spider climb shoes, and if she was at the top, it would have slowed down like overall the pacing, which is not good. So that's the main reason why we just kept going. But like for personal,
So do you want to know what would have happened if you would have done that?
Sure.
All right. Closure, right. If you would have gone one level up, you would have found Irina strapped to a wooden board with her hands and feet tied in metal shackles.
Kinky.
And basically Frankenstein waiting for a jolt of thunder to hit her.
Not into that.
All you would
Okay.
have had to do is to just release her. Just break the shackles or unlock them in any shape or form, and she would have been free. That's the
Yeah,
only
Strahd
thing-
really is not good with women.
No.
I mean, unless she was into that, which
I don't
think she
I
was
don't
into
think
him
that
at
was
all.
him. I think that was the abbot. I think he was trying to transition her over to the other body. Right?
She would have been strapped down there for safekeeping, but ultimately the idea was that the abbot would have been involved in that in some shape or form. Now, would
Yeah.
you have been able to release her from that? She would have had a very short conversation with you guys and ultimately would have decided to throw herself off the castle once again to just be free of Strahd, which in the end wouldn't have changed the outcome because she would still be with Sergei. But you
So
would not be able
listen.
to actually save her.
If Carla wanted, I could bring her back.
It wasn't really about that, I think, because for Carla, it's like she sees her as like Arena, her own person, with like Tatiana inside her. So like, it would have been like a thing where she's like, "Well, we'll have to figure out how to separate souls." I don't know, but yeah, that's not how it actually works. So it's probably better that it ended up that way, but it's sad.
I don't think
Sad.
John ever understood the whole different soul inside a body. He just saw her as Arena and wanted to save her. So that's one for Carla. Casario, do you have one?
Yeah, I think it's the same. I think she would have handled her mother differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think after the first time, I think even in the first time, I wish I could go back with the knowledge that I wish John could go back with the knowledge that he has now. And every time they encountered a person who was an NPC who was in a dangerous place, like the guy in the Amber Temple, the Ravenkind person at the Hag's house, even God, what's her name? The girl who went to the swamp without us and got in trouble. The guy who got sacrificed in the swamp. All of these people, like, not necessarily him, because there was really nothing they could do about that point. But they were freed from whatever danger they were in, and we said, get the fuck out, go home. You're not safe here. And like, either someone else in our party or they were convinced that they had to stay and help us, and they inevitably died. And it's John's like, no. And I feel like every one of if I could do anything, I would basically grab them by the scruff of the neck and say, "Get the hell out before I strike you down myself," and throw them, because saving them, they're not gonna die. They may hate John. He's okay with that, but they're not gonna die.
Fair enough.
I think that's it. That's all of our questions.
Yeah, I don't think I really have a location that I would have done differently. The one thing that I was like on the fence about was when you guys went to the coffin maker. I had to let it go the way it did, and you guys borderline died over there. But in retrospective, I should have probably dropped one or two more hints, like that's really dangerous, guys. But then again, that is also Curse of Strahd. I couldn't have dropped any hints. But that I was sitting there, clenched butt cheeks, like, you guys are so gonna die over here. Oh my god. And then Cassariel just saved all of you.
Cassariel was a Valkyrie in that whole
That's
moment.
clutch.
Holy crap.
Yeah, if you didn't do that, it was so over.
She flew her ass through the floor, got up there, and like the drive off undead, I think it was turn undead or something. Like half the fight was because they had to run away. It was amazing. Oh my god.
Yes.
Big moments. If you guys only came into if you guys came into the campaign a little bit later and didn't happen to see that, highly recommended. Go check out the Coffin Maker episode. I'm not sure exactly what the title is, but it's probably around like
one of the coolest moments. Yeah.
The Death House. Go back and watch the Death House. That was cool too. I forgot about that one. Our favorite fight moments. That was intense.
Yeah, the shambling mound that suddenly came out,
and
right?
the 5 ghasts in the hallway. That was a close fight.
That too, yeah. Because I believe the reason why it was a close fight is, I was going to say, Carla, you fell down like a pit or something.
It was a pit trap.
So I was basically, I got like hit real hard, and I was like, I have to just fucking go around a corner and down a health potion or something, or wounds. But because I was just running away, it was just straight into a trap. So I went down while I was in there. So fucking sprint over, lay on hands, get me up, get me out. Yeah.
Yep.
Which it's wild to think how squishy we were.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like all in all, this was an amazing campaign. I can see why they call the Curse of Strahd basically one of the campaigns of Dungeons and Dragons. It has everything in there, and unless you really don't like the whole gothic noir kind of storytelling, which if you don't like it, that is fair. But if you don't have anything against that, this is one of the campaigns. And if you haven't played the Curse of Strahd, but you love Dungeons and Dragons, you have to play this one. This is the one. It's so freaking cool. What a story. And I couldn't have wanted it to play through it with anyone else than the three of you. You did so amazingly well, and the story was so solid. I really enjoyed it. It was wonderful.
Yep. There's a lot of amazing assets out of there. We worked with a ton of fantastic people for both art assets. I think there was a lot of musical suggestions, various other things, but the biggest, I think, contributions were the maps that we ended up working with so much. The art for our characters that we had some amazing artists working on. We had some really great connections, and there's a lot of community work behind this campaign, this module, that I think that people could really benefit from.
Absolutely.
I think that about wraps it up.
I think so too. So what can you expect from us for the next couple of weeks? Because this wraps up the Curse of Strahd, but that doesn't mean that we're done, because we have a lot of things that are coming in the foreseeable future. As a quick overview, if I may, for the next couple of weeks, coming week we will have a moment off where we will dive into our one-shot and preparatory work that we need to do for our next campaign, which will be the Odyssey of the Dragon Lords, which is a wonderful story written by the same people that wrote the story for Dragon Age Origins. It is a wonderful...
Oh, really?
Yeah,
really?
No, it's written by them. I'm not kidding.
That's my fucking favorite game. Oh my god.
Well, there you go.
That's awesome.
Fuck yeah. Okay, sorry. Go on. I did not know that.
It's written by them, which is why it's such a very well-written story, and why it so fits well with all the dragons things. Their intro to the story is like, it's based on the Odyssey, it's based on the Iliad. So if you've read those stories, you'll definitely recognize things from that. And they end with, and those were all perfect, but we just said one thing: let's just add some more dragons. And that is basically that is the premise of Odyssey of the Dragon Lords. It's a wonderful story. The DM manual is like 350 pages, full of amazing content. I've been working tirelessly to get all the maps and whatnot in position. Coming week, we will be doing our Session 0. We already talked extensively, of course, about this campaign, but Session 0 will be coming Saturday. We will not be streaming that because we want to have the a day off to just do that amongst the four of us to really make that prep work. If memory serves, I believe the week after we have a week off, but the full schedule will be on Discord if you want to have it day by day. Other than that, we have something else which is really cool. We will be doing a one-shot / two-shot run by Carla as our DM, and we will. Can I already tell about it, or do you want to keep it a secret?
You can. We are going to be doing Critical Role's Candela Obscurica, and we're using that system, and we're going to. It might be homebrew because I'm a big advocate for homebrew as a DM, but it could be something as well that they pre-made. I just have to go delve a bit deeper into the modules, but I thought it looked really cool, and I think it'll be fun. So yeah, that'll give Barry a break and let him be a player for a little while, and we'll learn maybe a new system, so you get to see us play something other than a D&D 5e. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, and the setting is going to be amazing because it's not just me being a player, but it like Call of Cthulhu, like basically that setting, right? It's just 1920s, 1930s steampunk, like that era. It's going to be cool to play something different for a change. So I'm really looking forward to that. Beyond that, we will have 1 or 2 weeks off as it is summer holiday. Some of us are going on vacation and whatnot, so we're going to be laying low a little bit. And then towards the end of the summer holiday, which will be roughly around the country of August, we will be launching our new campaign, Odyssey of the Dragon Lords. If you want to stay informed on the exact date and whatnot, we will be dropping that into our Discord, of course. So join our Discord, please. The link will be in the description for YouTube. It will be in the chat. You can also find it on thegildedflask.com. Make sure to join us over there so we will be able to tell you when we are going live with that. It should be towards the end of the summer. And we're really looking forward to another amazing adventure that is going to be quite lengthy. The Odyssey of the Dragon Lords will take anywhere between 50 and 100 episodes, roughly. It's going to be a big story, but oh my god, what a story it is. And I can't wait to share it with all of you.
Before we head off, I would like to obviously thank Barry for creating this beautiful story and the amount of time and resources and connections that he's made to get this to happen. Like Marissa has done so amazing with all of the graphics that we've created in tandem with Barry, and like everything that you see on our pages is created by her. If a stream is running, it's because Daniel is making that happen. So like amazing work from Daniel as well. And like we just like the response to everything that has happened is amazing. Like if you have gifted a sub, if you have subscribed yourself, if you have been gifted one, if you've given us bits, if you have commented under any single post, if you've liked any single one of our posts or shared it or talked about it or made fan art, like thank you. That makes this just as special as all the work that we do here as well. So like the reception has been amazing. Like what a great campaign. What a great starter.
And a lot
Absolutely.
of a lot of the art that we've gotten has been through connections that I want to say Carla Ann has made and pursued and pretty much done everything for. A lot of the social media posts, most of the social media posts that we make that are the shorts and stuff like that are just expertly edited by Ann. Created some amazing content there. And thank you so much for also running several of the one shots that we've done, that like giving Barry a break, a chance to be a player, and taking the fear of the pressure off me and Marissa a little bit.
I'm coming for you eventually. You're gonna have to let us both go.
I swear I've got like the first half is written. I'm so scared. It's like, what are they gonna do? What am I gonna do if they go this way? Oh shit.
Yeah, not to put extra pressure on that, but actually to put some more pressure onto that. I'm going to share it one more time. Yes, we did agree as a group that all of us are going to be playing DM at least once. So while Carla is going to do it once now, John and Casario, Daniel and Marissa are going to be playing DM for us at some point.
Yeah.
So it is going to happen, but that is a TBD, of course. But it will happen in the foreseeable future.
Yes, I would like to be at very least ready to do one, before the Odyssey starts. Or we may not do it before the Odyssey starts, but I'd like to be ready so that if we have to delay by another week, I'll be able to.
Perfectly fine. There is no stress on that. I'd just love to see it at some point, but
I
obviously
will
there's
not be DMing before Odyssey.
No, that is fair.
So fair.
No chance.
No,
0%.
no, that is perfectly fair.
I still have vividly in my mind the only thing that really stands out about my one shot is just this sort of semi hunched over, very tall figure looking back at you like over his shoulder, going, "Is this new prey?"
Spooky, ooky, spooky.
Just that is
Oh,
cool.
I don't like that walking backwards on your hands stuff. That's scary.
I don't know about
Yeah.
That's
that.
scary. Oh.
Good stuff.
Contortionists actually are another kind of like, not phobia. It's not a phobia level, but it's up there. No Cirque du Soleil for me.
Never say that when the DM is present. I'm just taking notes.
So yeah, spider
Yeah,
climb.
not that nine-legged spider.
Somebody who can use spider climb who's also climbing backwards.
Yeah, that's cool. And then turning
No.
their heads like 360. Yeah,
Nope.
that's, yeah.
Okay, cool. Alrighty, everybody. I think if you're watching this in the future on our podcast, on our podcast platforms, or on YouTube,
Hi, future.
thank you so much for spending the time that you have watching our humble adventure, our shenanigans and antics. Thank you for being part of our community, and thank you for the questions, comments, and the shares and the likes. Everything that you've done for us, it really does help. We can't even put numbers to it. It's just incredibly helpful. Thank you so much. If you have any further questions that we didn't answer in these, feel free to put them in the comments, and we will respond and answer them in text format. And good luck in the future, and we're really looking forward to our next campaign. Hope to see you there.
Absolutely. We'll see you in a couple of weeks with the Odyssey of the Dragon Lords, and of course with our one shot from Carla, from Anne. I should stop calling you Carla, because like that's over.
You really
Casario,
should.
Carla, John, it's
Yeah.
over. It's just Anne, Daniel, Marissa again.
God.
Yeah.
I have something. I have a challenge for everybody. In our Discord,
Yes.
drop what characters you think we're going to be playing. So make a guess. What characters are we going to be playing in the next campaign?
Good question.
Yeah.
Yes.
Class.
I'm curious to
and
see
race
what
and
or
everything.
what you would like us to play, what you hope we're playing in the next campaign.
Yes.
I'm
and
curious.
in the coming weeks, we will drop some hints, maybe visual cues and whatnot, to see if it matches. And just before we will launch the Odyssey, we will obviously tell you guys. Yeah, that's a nice one. Let's hear it. What are we gonna play?
Think long forgotten land in a Greece style.
Oh yes.
Think the Odyssey.
Long forgotten.
Think the Odyssey.
Greece-
Think the
Greece
Iliad.
style.
Think Greek history, but with the D&D twists and lots of dragons.
Get some hair gel. Put my hair back in there. Hey.
Hey,
Breathe. Never mind.
that's terrible.
Alrighty. Well, if anyone else has
All right.
anything to add, I think this is it.
Yep. I think we can call it. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for hanging around. We love each and every one of you, and we hope to see you guys again soon with our next campaign.
Bye.
Bye-bye now.